order the April 6th, 2026 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission to order. Welcome, everyone. I'm Ted Kempton, Chair of the Commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff will then present their report. We will then ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the commissioners will ask questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing is closed, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on Chapter 27 of City Code and Ordinances, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence cell phones. And I'll start on my left with introductions of commissioners.
Elena Ketchum, Attorney Representative.
John Prokop, I practice architecture.
Brian Hammond, architect.
Dan Myers, architect.
Good evening, I'm Carol Post, I'm the Public Policy Representative.
Tim Jones, contractor.
Okay, also in attendance, we have Dennis Fernandez, Elaine Lund, Jared Varnum, our attorney Dana Crosby Collier, and then Mary Bryson Collier. Good to see you, it's been a while. Okay. All right. So we want to, we need to approve the minutes. Looking for a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes from last month.
Second.
Second.
Have a second. Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Welcome to this evening's public hearing, to you and those in our audience and our applicants. I did want to begin with just a few announcements. We will be holding our Wednesday, April 8th hearing as well to accommodate the applications in this review cycle. That will be in this room at 5:30 p.m. as normal. I do have the administrative approvals to enter into the record. We will provide those to the clerk, and then you can accept those by motion at the end of the meeting. Also, at the end of the meeting this evening, we do have the election of officers. So I'll be accepting nominations for the next year for chair and vice chair. If you want to assemble your thoughts, we'll handle that after our business on the agenda. And lastly, in your packets, you do have Tampa Bricks and Mortar, which is our reoccurring highlights of activities and advances in historic preservation in the city. We're calling attention to Ybor City and on its 140th anniversary of this first cigar being rolled, which is coming up here on April 13th, the week from today. And there will be a celebration in Ybor City next week. I'll send you some information at the Hotel Hyatt, where they'll be commemorating this event, and then also striving to roll the Guinness Book of World Records longest cigar, which how can you miss that? But that is going to be next Monday, I believe from 12 to 3, and I will send you the advertisement for that. And with that as my segue, this month's Preservation in Progress will be presented by Elaine, and we'll focus on Ybor City's past. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Planner. This month's Preservation in Progress excuse me, features the Sanchez and Haya Company, the company that produced the first cigar in Ybor City. The migration of cigar manufacturers to Tampa was a major component of its rapid growth at the end of the 19th century. Vicente Martinez Ybor was perhaps the best known of these cigar manufacturers. Another who moved to the outskirts of Tampa around the same time was Ignacio Haya. He had previously settled in New York from Spain, and in New York, he and his friend Serafin Sanchez had founded the Sanchez and Haya Cigar Company. Haya and his family visited Key West in the winters, where they befriended Ybor and his family. In 1885, Ybor and Haya visited Tampa and recognized the potential in Tampa's port and its recently completed railroad line. After working out a land deal with the Tampa Board of Trade, they decided to invest in the area. You can see a large bulk of the area that they invested in here on the map. Both of these maps on the screen are from 1886, one being the general plan of Tampa and the other being the map of Ybor City, just to the northwest of the city limits of Tampa. This 1892 bird's eye view of Tampa shows the relationship between Tampa proper and Ybor City, with Tampa being the area at the, where downtown Tampa is today, along the Hillsborough River and at the entrance to the river from Hillsborough Bay, and then Ybor City being just off to the right side of the map there. Ybor and Haya had both had their factories in operation by the end of 1886, and several hundred worker houses were completed and occupied. Commercial establishments soon followed. Ybor had purchased a streetcar line and connected Ybor City with Tampa, and you can see, you can make out that rail line for the streetcar on this bird's eye view map. In 1887, Ybor City legally became part of the city of Tampa, although Ybor maintained its separate identity. Ybor's continued growth allowed it to reach a population of about 6,000 by 1890, which outnumbered the residents of Tampa proper. Ybor City first appears in Tampa's Sanborn maps in 1889, 2 years after it was annexed into the city. Here you can see one of the sheets from the Sanborn map series of 1889. In this particular image, you can see the one building that's shown in red there being the Vicente Martinez Ybor and Company cigar factory. The Sanchez and Haya factory is located 2 blocks to the south and one just to the east. And we'll look at that a little more closely in a minute. So Sanchez and Haya constructed the first fully operational wood cigar factory, a 2-story building at the southwest corner of 7th Avenue and 15th Street in 1886. Both the Sanchez and Haya factory and Ybor's temporary factory opened the same day. Ybor had been building a temporary factory at the on 7th Avenue as well while he was waiting for the brick building to be completed. But both factories were to open on March 26th of 1886. The Sanchez and Haya factory, however, was able to turn out the first completed clear Havana cigar on April 13th. And by the end of the year, both the Sanchez and Haya factory and the Ybor factory together were producing well over 1 billion cigars a month. This is a drawing on the screen here from the Tampa Daily Tribune, which shows the south elevation of the Sanchez and Haya factory, and this is from about 1890. So if you compare this drawing of the Sanchez and Haya factory with the 1889 Sanborn map, you can see the open 2-story porch depicted on the dashed line on the south side of the building. By 1895, the building had been altered to enclose the first story of the south porch, And you can see that in the early photograph there. It's looking southwest at the Sanchez and Haya factory, so 7th Avenue would be the street in the foreground. You can also see this little wood frame building at the very corner of the property there, which the Sanborn map indicates that this was a watchmaker's shop. The factory was enlarged over the next few years and took on this 3-story form before the cigar company moved to a new factory building around 1910. This slide shows a couple of images of the factory from the first decade of the 1900s, and also the 1915 Sanborn map there, which shows the enlarged former factory and the brick buildings just to the west on 7th Avenue. While the new factory was under construction, the Sanchez and Haya company occupied the Stachelberg factory building, which is now occupied by U-Haul. The Berriman brothers moved into the Stachelberg factory when Sanchez and Haya moved into its new building finally in around 1910. The new factory for Sanchez and Haya was built at the corner of 14th Avenue and 17th Street, which today is located underneath Interstate 4. Sanchez and Haya was merged with Wengler and Mansell in 1930, which was then bought out by Gradius and Nice in 1934, who continued to produce the Sanchez and Haya label. The circa 1910 building was later known as La Integridad and La Primadora Cigar Factory, but La Primadora closed in 1951 during an era when cigar manufacturers were moving to northern states, citing the efficiency of new factories and manufacturing processes that use machines. The building here was used as a tobacco warehouse until its demolition, in 1961. In addition to cigar manufacturing, Sanchez and Haya worked in real estate. They platted their first subdivision in 1888, and in 1895 they had built their first brick building on 7th Avenue and incorporated their real estate company. The real estate company built additional commercial buildings in Ybor City, including the building in the 1920s that replaced their original factory. This is a clipping from the 1910 Tampa Tribune, talking about the work on a new hotel that was being constructed by the Sanchez and Haya Real Estate Company. So we do hope to be able to bring you sometime in the future an update on the rehabilitation of this building on Columbus Drive. So with that, you can read more about Sanchez and Haya in this month's Bricks and Mortar newsletter, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elaine. It's fascinating history that we live within, and I'm always learning about new things to deal with it. We will move on with the agenda. Next is disclosure of conflicts of interest and ex parte communication, and our legal counsel will lead that discussion.
Good evening, Dana Crosby Collier from the Legal Department. I'd like to ask if any member has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this evening.
No, I do not.
No.
None.
I do. ARC 25-000473. I'm in a contractual relationship with the agent, so I'm going to recuse myself for that case.
Okay, fine, and file the Form 8B for our minutes.
I have.
Thank you. Great, so has any member engaged in an ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda this evening?
Not.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. We do not have any continuations to act upon, so we'll go ahead and administer the swear-in. Anyone who's going to be presenting to the commission today or providing public testimony, if you could please stand and raise your right hand for the swear.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony being provided today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. We're ready for our first case, which is ARC 26-0000171. And Elaine will introduce the case.
Thank you. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. So application ARC 2600000171 is located in the Tampa Heights Historic District at 407 East Adderley Street. The application in front of you this evening is for, first, for a variance request for a grand tree removal. And then if the purpose of the variance request is to allow for the new construction of a single-family residence and an accessory structure with site improvements on the property. Moving to the photo presentation. 407 East Adderley Street is located at the north end of the Tampa Heights Historic District. It is actually just outside the boundaries of the National Register Historic District. Those boundaries are shown in blue on the map, but still falls within the local Tampa Heights Historic District. So the project in particular is located on Adderley Street, just along the block to the west of Central Avenue. This is the 1920s era Sanborn map of the subject site, showing there was a building there at 407 East Adderley Street, a one-story, excuse me, a one-story wood frame dwelling. You can see on this map the red again being the boundary of the local historic district. This is located very close to Robles Park, which would be the body of water across Adderley Street there to the north. Again, this is on the block west of Central Avenue and just east of Jefferson Street. This present-day aerial photograph again shows the location of the subject site. Again, between Jefferson and Central Avenue on the south side of Adderley Street. You can see the proximity to the lake or the pond in Robles Park there. And then this is the view looking south from Adderley into the subject site. This is the property directly to the east at 409 Adderley Street. And the property directly to the west at 405 Adderley Street. And then looking to the north, we'd be looking at a building that's located outside of the historic district here. This particular building does not face Adderley Street. Looking here, we have the view looking east along Adderley Street, so you can see the interstate in the distance there, the park on the left side of the screen, and the buildings within the historic district to the right. And here we're looking west on Adderley Street towards Jefferson Street, the subject site to your left. This is the view looking east in the alley, so we're looking towards Central Avenue at the alley there. And this is the view looking west in the alley from the subject property. So this would be looking towards Jefferson Street. As there is a variance request in front of you this evening, just wanted to go over the requirements for your consideration as you listen to the applicant's presentation. The usual variance criteria that this commission considers located in the Statement of Variance Hardship exhibit that was submitted by the applicant are those 6 variance hardship criteria you must consider, as well as an additional 6 criteria for grand tree removal, and that's in section 27-284.2.5 of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. The staff report on page 4 outlines those criteria for your consideration. The ARC staff, following the applicant's presentation, will not have a staff report to present. However, there is a representative here this evening from Natural Resources, Mary Danielitz Bryson, who will be giving a brief presentation on the criteria for the grand tree removal, and will be available to help you with any questions as we move through this portion of the application this evening. So with that, I will hand it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Elaine. My name is Kevin Robles. I'm the property owner of 407 East Adelaide, and I'm here today for a certificate of appropriateness which will require this variance for a grand tree removal. Should you see to grant the variance, and we'll go straight into the certificate of appropriateness. This tree was established for the variance that meets the hardship criteria. This hardship is unique in the property due to the tree's location along with the previous root zone impact. Granting the variance will not confer special privileges that are denied to others when the same zoning district, as in the condition, is unique to the property. The request is only due to the location of the existing tree and not due to any of the actions of the applicant. Granting the variance will not create negative impacts to the health, safety, and of the principal parcel or neighboring properties. The request would allow for a new single-family ARC-approved historic-style home and an accessory dwelling unit for the owner. The variance is in harmony with Tampa's comprehensive plan and by allowing the new single-family historic-style home and accessory dwelling unit to be added to the Tampa Heights Historic Urban Village neighborhood. The addition of the home complies with the urban village objectives of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan by supporting the village's designations that it produce a distinctive, high-quality built environment for whose forms and character respect Tampa's unique historic, environmental, and architectural context and create memorable places that enrich the community life. Granting this variance for the removal of the grand tree has merit in that it allows for the construction of a new family historic style home with an accessory dwelling unit for the owners. Granting this variance will allow for the construction of a new single family historic home and the accessory dwelling unit and is consistent with the historic pattern of development within the historic district. When applying for this variance, there was a request for two different alternative site plans to accommodate the tree, and so we have provided that to the city of Tampa. I will give you the first one. Is that in focus for you all? Yes, okay. So the grand tree is here. This is the proposed structure pulled forward into the what would essentially be the front setback. The two properties to the adjoining properties to the east and to the west, the front setbacks are here and here. We'll put that in perspective with these are the two adjoining properties. So in the alternative design, the house, the proposed structure, would be pulled up into this front area right here. Alternatively, there was another alternative design which pulled the house as far to the west as possible, essentially with the same result. House was pulled forward and to the west, encroaching into the protected radius of this oak in the front and still leaving the encroachment into the root zone here. Additionally, there was 2 separate arborist reports done on this tree. Both of the arborists, and I think I'm going to elaborate slightly on the nature of the tree in its first iteration when the old existing dilapidated structure came down. And that is this photo right here, which you can see that the old original house, the tree had been intertwined with the foundation of the original house. And additionally, there was a risk assessment done on the tree, and I do have copies of that for the board if they so desire. And I do want to give just a small summary of the risk assessment. You what? Oh, yeah, sure. That's fine. That's fine. Seven. And then there are these, hold 1 second then. And there is, should be 7 letters from the neighbor. 1 letter, 7 times. This was a risk assessment report from a certified arborist. Formal arboricultural assessment of the tree was conducted following the demolition of the previous residence of the lot. A root collar excavation was performed with an air spade, and it was executed to enhance visibility of the root flare. The tree exhibits a slight phototropic lean towards the adjacent property. The excavation revealed a notable absence of buttress roots on the tension side of the trunk. The base of the tree displays areas of missing bark, however, etiologically remains indeterminate, as there was no accompanying evidence of pathogenic disease or fungal fruiting bodies. The canopy structure includes several instances of included bark, which contribute to the compromised limb attachments. The canopy's color and foliar density appears to be within normal limits. Significant disturbance was observed within the root zone, primarily attributed to the close proximity of the recently demolished structure and the tree itself. Furthermore, the existing walkway on the property may have contributed to the suppression of root development in the critical areas. Given the tree's structural imbalance and potential for catastrophic failure, it is my professional opinion that the removal should be considered. Further site modifications or construction activities on the lot are likely to further exacerbate the existing risk profile. The risk concerns the risks of tree failure impacting people, homes, and property. The tree has a moderate risk for failure with a high consequence of failure. Failure probability, the probability of failure is considered possible. The tree would benefit from weight reduction and removal of deadwood. However, the residual risk of failure would remain moderate. Conclusion that the tree possesses an unacceptable risk to persons and property, and the removal of the tree is the only means of practically mitigating the risk below moderate, as determined by the tree risk assessment procedures outlined in Best Management Practices, Tree Risk Assessment, 2nd edition. Attached are the photographs of the tree through the tree assessment, risk assessment. Here is the tree to the neighboring structure as it leans towards the neighboring structure. This is the non-tension side of the tree, and over here was where the original structure was that you saw in the earlier photograph. This is the tension side of the tree where the old building was, the old house was demolished. And photographically, here it is once again, and a close-up view of the root collar. Additionally, the neighbor to the west, or excuse me, to the east, which was most impacted by this tree, has offered a letter of support of the removal of the tree. And that gentleman, Mr. Nick Sorrentino, is here in the audience tonight. That concludes my presentation on the Grand Tree variance. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mary Daniowitz Bryson, Natural Resources, and I have been sworn. Let's see here. Permit history: when the lot was purchased by the property owner, they did apply for a tree removal permit. They applied in April of 2026. The permit was denied. They submitted an engineer's report because they were going to keep this structure and remove the tree. However, there is a condition in the code that states that if you remove a tree within the 2-year period, there's presumption of guilt. And that was the intent all along, to remove the tree. However, you know, the permit was closed because they did apply for a demolition permit. That permit was withdrawn, and the structure had declined to a point where they were cited and were ordered to remove the tree, which they did, and they applied for an ARC permit to review the demolition, and that was approved because of the condition of the structure. And then they applied for the ARC 26-171 right now for the new single-family home with the detached garage accessory dwelling unit. I'd like to point out that the Sanborn map shows all 3 structures in the same location pretty much. And this is a 1920 map showing the structures on Adderley. I did go to the property appraiser's office, and I did do a measurement off of an aerial, and each structure was probably about 9 to 11 feet away. You know, it's not an exact measurement. It's not to scale. So this is the structure, and you can see it's pretty close to the front property line. The species is a live oak. Live oak is one of our most strongest trees. It's we call them bulletproof because they will continue to ward off disease, and they're our most wind-resistant tree, and they can live up to 300 years or more if they in the right environment. This tree is a 43-inch live oak. The canopy measures 50 by 55. Our condition, the rating was a B7. Dylan Bacon went out to the site and evaluated the tree for the tree removal permit. He did note some minor root damage. That should not, impact the viability of this tree to survive with a structure near it. If this tree is removed, mitigation is 12 2.5-inch trees. This is the report done by Dylan Bacon. I concur with the report. These are the Grand Tree photos from site visit in February when I met with the property owner on the lot. These are photos from April 2nd, 2026. Again, I went to the lot to find out, estimate where the existing structures on each adjacent property are located. I measured from the edge of the porch, not including the stairs, but the actual physical structure of the porch back to the front curb. The east side was 18 feet 9 inches and the west side was 19 feet 6 inches. Now, the right-of-way is 5.8 inches. That area, between the actual curb and the roadway. So each structure was maybe about 13 feet or so from the front property line. Site survey, existing conditions, this is the lot as it exists currently. This is the proposed plan that they had submitted. Now, they do have an accessory dwelling unit. However, the accessory dwelling unit in the Tampa Heights Historic District, if it's less than 600 square feet, you don't need to add additional parking. You could get 2 spaces, one in the portico share and one closer to the right-of-way, and meet your parking requirements. You've already seen the plans that they submitted, their alternatives. I did do some development review comments and let them know that the tree needed a variance to be removed based on its condition. But I also informed them based on section 27-156, footnote 7, that they do have the alternative of moving the structure up if that will help save a grand tree. In addition, in the Tampa Heights Historic District, they have an allowance of allowing the porch to go 10 foot into the setback. But we looked at just moving the house up in 5 feet that the code allows by right. And then this is the actual footnote, up to 25% reduction for the front and corner yards. In this case, the reduction would be 5 feet into the setback, and the tree could be accommodated, and the structure also. This is our rendering. Moving the structure up 5 feet into the setback would allow a pier and lintel foundation and just a little bit of the corner of the structure within the tree zone. You could do a pier here, a pier here, and a pier at the corner, and lentil the foundation, and that would allow, even with moving the garage up and utilizing the alley for access for the garage and the accessory dwelling unit, the tree could be accommodated and the structure could be built. These are the standards for the board to review. You need to look at the impact of the building and structure on the tree, whether the proposed building or structures can be reasonably reconfigured, and that's the key here. We believe with just using the 27-156 by right, that you can accommodate the structure, reasonably reconfigure around it. And then the alternative construction methods can be utilized, and that you do consider the cost of those alternative requirements. But for any accessory building structures and new construction, the board shall also consider the existing development pattern, which is why I went out to the site and actually measured the distance from the front, from the actual curb back, to try to determine if this was in conjunction with what would be allowed in the district. And you'll see a photo here showing the existing structure and the structures on either side. And concludes my presentation. Now, I have not, the city has not been privy to any of the alternative arborist reports that they've gotten. The one reads like a letter to remove the tree. You can't utilize that kind of an assessment for a vacant lot if they were going to try to remove the tree under the state statute. So, basically, our staff looking at this site, the tree can be accommodated, the structure can be worked around the tree. There are alternative construction techniques that can be utilized, and I truly believe the tree is worth preservation. And
Thank you
I'm
very much.
available for any of your questions.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody in the public that's here to speak for or against this project? Okay, seeing no one, we will move on to commissioner questions, and I'll start on my right.
For the, our city tree lady, I'm sorry, I forgot her
Natural
name.
Resources.
Sorry, Natural Resources, thank you, thank you. Natural Resources, I have a question for you. You mentioned that they had previously come to you to pull a permit to remove the tree back in 2025,
Correct.
and you denied that permit at that time, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And according to your rules, it said that they had to wait another 2 years, did I understand that correctly?
Well, no, if you were going to keep an existing structure and remodel it, and you're going to remove a good grand tree that is not hazardous, then at that point, if you tear down the structure, there's a 2-year period that if you tear down the structure within that 2-year period, there's a section in the code that says presumption of guilt, that if you tear down the if you remove the tree and then tear down the structure, that was your intent all the time.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. So to the applicant, you mentioned in one of your arborist reports, which wasn't in the arborist report that we received, that they did some air spading.
So, on the tree collar,
Yeah.
if I might make 3 points of clarity over Mary's report.
Can you just answer my question first, please?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
there
gonna
was
have an opportunity
there was
for
an air
rebuttal.
spade on the tree collar,
But not on the entire root system, or just the tree collar
just
itself?
the tree collar itself.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
And before, if I can interrupt, the report that you recited appears to be different than the one that was handed to us.
There's 2 reports.
Can we get a copy of the
Be
one
happy
that
to
you-
provide the other one as
All
well.
right, thank you.
You're done?
I'm done, yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. And thank you for the city arborist's elaboration as well. I guess I would ask the obvious question, at least it's obvious to me, which is if there are and were presented opportunities to maintain the tree as the arborist presented, why were those not pursued?
That was one of my points that I did want to clarify. No matter where you move the house forward, the 1-foot relief as per the zoning to the west, whether you take it forward within the 25%, you're still within 8 feet of this grand tree, based
So-
upon the placement of the tree.
So follow-up question. As you presented, moving the structure around the site, what I didn't see presented was any alternative structure, resizing it, reshaping it, reconfiguring it. Did you explore that as alternative? I didn't see that moving it around was necessarily an alternative design. Is there any actual alternative design?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So under what, if you move the structure, is there enough space for a car to pass and get to the
No,
garage
sir.
and back?
No, sir.
But if you provide a slightly different design for the house, then,
That house is shallow to begin with. Additionally, if I could rebut Natural Resources comments, there was the comment made to use the alley. The alley has two grand trees located within the alley to the west, a grand oak in the unimproved alley, and to the east, a grand camper. So that there is no viability in using the alley unless you deal with the trees that are in the alley.
no further questions.
I have a question for Natural Resources. If we could see, if you could pull up that site plan with kind of the limits of construction that you had proposed.
There we go.
I don't know if you can blow that up a little bit or get some help with that. There you go. Did you, I mean, it appears that way, but did you look to see if the square footage of the footprint of the building was similar?
This structure appears to be a little bit larger than the prior structure. There were two structures previously on the lot. One was an accessory building and then the main house. This appears to be just a little bit larger.
Okay.
And I would like to add a note of clarification. A camphor tree is an invasive species. However, in a controlled environment, they do well. But if a property owner desires to remove a camphor tree or a camphor tree needs to be removed, we immediately allow it to be removed because of it being a class 1 invasive species. And so the camphor on the other end would not be an issue.
Okay, and so in this, is the intent for the accessory structure to, and I'm sorry if I missed this, have a garage?
It's an accessory dwelling unit with a garage below.
Okay. And the alley isn't viable? Is that what?
The alley is unimproved. He would need to improve the alley in order to utilize the alley for access for the garage.
Okay. And improve it how much? I guess the extent of the improvement would be all the way to the street? I mean, is it passable at all?
The one end, because of the other grand tree, it is not at that end, but it could be modified and improved. It'd have to be a safe, dustless surface. You know, it could be asphalt, concrete.
So it would
And
be
he would have to work with transportation as to what kind of a
It
material
would be
to
incumbent
utilize.
on the applicant then to improve that from his property to the street.
Yes, that is correct. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Question for the applicant. As my earlier commissioner asked, you've not tried to design different houses on this site. You've simply taken one house design and moved it around. Is that correct?
That is correct. But I think what you, based upon the location of the grand tree, the space between the westerly property line and the tree, the furthest we can get away from the tree is 8 feet.
Okay,
So no matter how you manipulate, you're still within 8 feet of the tree. Typically, standard practice with natural resources when it comes to permitting single-family residential is they like a 12-foot buffer. They will accept up to a 10-foot buffer. I can't get more than 8 feet away from this tree and understand.
I'm not sure what you mean, you can't get this house, this plan.
This plan is only 38 feet deep.
I
So-
understand, but there's other, people design houses around trees all the time. There are courtyard-type houses. There are houses that are connected with little pergolas that connect to another piece in the back that's larger, and the tree is saved. I'm saying this design of this house has not been altered in any way, shape, or form to accommodate the tree. It's like the house is a single shape that you're trying to force onto this site, and you have not had another house design attempted to be designed that could accommodate this tree on this site. You're saying this is the only house you can build on this site, which is not the case.
It is the only reasonable size house that I can, in the historic district, get to accommodate, and I'm still struggling getting enough distance away from this grand tree.
Again, I think you can change the shape of the house and get away from the grand tree. You're insisting that this is a specific size of house that you have to put on this site in order, I don't know why you have to have this exact dimension of a house on this site. That you can't design the house in such a way that it bypasses, it goes around the house. There's a connecting corridor that goes around the house, and part of the house's structure is put to the backside of the tree. You just haven't presented to us any alternative designs of a house to accommodate the site that you own.
So in meeting with Natural Resources, one of their recommendations was that we pull the house forward. That breaks the rhythm of the historic district.
That's one of the ways you could alter, but again, you're simply moving the same house plan. You're not changing the plan of the house, correct? You haven't designed a different plan of a different house to put on this site to accommodate the tree. You're simply moving.
Commissioner Prokop, I think we've established that.
Okay.
We got more questions?
Okay. Did you try even mirroring the house so that the driveway is on the other side?
That makes it worse.
Again, but we don't know that because you haven't shown us a plan of that, correct? Do you have a plan of that?
No, sir, but I can articulate the mathematics to you. The lot is 48 feet wide. The smallest I can be on one side, the narrowest I can be from the westerly property line, even with the variant, even with the setback relief from the grand tree, would be 6 feet. This house itself is only 30 feet wide. The tree is 11 feet off of the property line. So if I take the 11 feet plus the minimum 10 feet to get away, that's 21 feet minus 6 leaves me no more than a 26 wide house.
At the tree, not in front of the tree and not behind the tree, but at the tree, it's 26 feet.
At the tree. I have to accommodate 2 vehicles off of the street.
I understand. I think we've gotten to the point, you have a single design that you're moving around the site. I think we've established that. I have no other questions.
So I have a question for Natural Resources.
Yes, ma'am.
So explain to me why the building could be moved up 5 feet and address what the owner is talking about, that he can't get within the radius.
Well, 27-156 allows you to reduce the front setback, rear setback, or side setbacks to try to configure and work around the tree. This had a structure closer than the 12 feet that he is talking about. Basically, there was an existing structure that was closer to the tree. The required code minimum setback off the edge of the tree to the closest edge of improvement is 20 feet. We can allow up to 15 feet under certain circumstances. When you've had a structure that is closer, sometimes you can utilize the existing foundation if it's still there, or you can do alternative construction techniques such as, a helical pile or a pier of some sort. You would have to air spade, locate where you could put those piers and elevate the structure.
So, but you're saying he could move the structure up 5
Forward.
feet?
He could move it up even further than that. We were just talking about moving it forward in accordance with what he's allowed to do by right. He could, because it's in the Tampa Heights Historic District, they allow you to push the porch up 10 feet. So he could push it up even a little bit further and still be not too far off from the houses on either side.
And if he moves it up just the 5 feet that you're suggesting, or have set as an option, is he within the radius of?
He is probably about 10 feet off the tree.
And that's acceptable?
With an air spade and alternative construction at, with a report at time of permitting, that could be a possibility.
Okay, thank you. So for the homeowner.
Okay.
I have a couple
Oh,
questions.
okay,
So
go
the
ahead.
back structure, what is that back structure?
That is an ADU, that is an ADU.
So it's
It's a
not for parking?
I'm sorry?
It's not a garage, it's actually a separate,
It is a garage with an apartment above.
okay. And this plan provides that the way that you access that back garage is from the front of the house through the portico and straight back?
That is correct. But I would like to make one point. Based upon the square footage of the garage, there is enough parking already that I don't have to use the garage for the parking.
Okay,
Because there is 2 parking spaces in a portico share and a driveway, which creates a 2 tandem parking in the front.
okay. So
But
if,
it still does not relieve the issue about the location of the tree and the main structure of the house.
why?
Because the geometries of the lot and where the grand tree is, 10 feet in off of the property line on a 48-foot wide lot, approximately 51 feet back from the back of curb, there is no yinging and there's no yanging. To one of the commissioner's point, okay, you can build a courtyard around that tree, but you can't really build a courtyard around a tree that's 10 feet off that really only leaves 13 buildable feet on the deeper side and nothing on the westerly side between the tree and, the easterly side between the tree and the neighbor.
So so you don't need the back unit for parking, because you have the 2 parking spaces up by the front structure, right?
That is correct.
If you move the structure up 5 feet, you still have those 2 spaces for parking, correct?
Only until I reach less than 18 feet of driveway, because it requires 9 feet by 18 feet long to accommodate 1 motor vehicle. If you're gonna set them tandem, you gotta be 18 and 18, 36 feet deep. If you're gonna stack the vehicles in tandem.
So if you move the structure up 5 feet, you're in this issue of the parking now?
If
Or you
I,
still have the two?
if I can't use the road right away, I have to use the private property.
Okay,
So that would, once I begin to compromise the 18 feet, and I apologize, I'll give you the number right now. Right now, I'm sitting at 20. If I pull it forward by 5 feet as per natural resources, that would give me a 15-foot parking spot, and that is not transportation, under the transportation requirements, deep enough to park a vehicle.
Okay, natural resources, do you have something to say about that?
The portico is 26 feet long. So even if he moves it up between the portico and, I think there is enough room there.
Okay. All right, and then I just have a question about the reports that you handed up from the arborists. So the one report, so which one are we supposed to rely on?
You can rely on both of them. One is a risk assessment of the tree. The other one is a general statement about the location of the tree and the condition of the tree. The one report from Seeds to Tree rates the tree at a C8. The city rated it at a B.
7, I think.
B7? B6?
B7.
B7 to C8 with the
Yeah.
other arborist.
So I can tell you, I'm not gonna rely on the report that you handed up copies of, because it clearly states in there, it's not a tree risk assessment.
That
It
is
also-
correct.
yeah,
It's
it
two
also-
different reports.
Yeah, and it also said that the damage to the trunk was likely caused from the demolition of the home.
The damage to the trunk?
Trunk was that's what the report says. There was some statement that it was likely damaged from removal of the home. So I think in my mind, you're left with the one report that goes against what Natural Resources is saying. How do we get around the requirement that says we have to consider whether you've made alternative plans, essentially, to consider keeping the tree?
I took my cues from Natural Resources to provide an alternative plan, 2 alternative plans under Mary's direction to pull the house forward. Now, whether or not that's a viable or not is to me under the purview of this commission to determine the lineup of the fronts of the houses. So what Natural Resources offered up in order to try to save the tree was to take the house and pull it forward into the front setback. So that's
Yeah.
what I presented today.
Okay. I guess one difficulty that I'm gonna have is that the code requires us to consider whether the proposed structure can be reasonably reconfigured, essentially to save the tree. And when you look at reasonable reconfiguration, one is, essentially, can you change it to make it work? And so that's going to be, in my mind, a challenge, since really no other reasonable reconfiguration seems to have been considered, and I think that's where some of the other questions were going in this. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know you're gonna have an opportunity to respond. That's all I have.
Then-
Okay, great.
Thank you.
This is for staff. Mary, could you give us the quick elevator explanation, the difference between the C5, I think he said, and the B7 rating?
This is the front that just gives what's back on the worksheet of what the tree. The roots were rated B, the trunk was rated B, structure was rated B, twigs were rated B, and foliage was rated B. And then for failure potential, it's a scale 1 to 12. And when you look at like the part that could fail and, the twigs and decay where that's located and the type of use next to the tree, all of those things come to the rating of the tree. I did look at the roots. There was some minor damage. I didn't think that was enough to downgrade the tree, so I stood by the evaluation done by our forester examiner in the field. I didn't see anything that alarmed me to the point where I would have downgraded the tree.
In a situation where, let's say, this structure was outside of the protective route, what would the rating have to be for you to say, it's hazardous, I want to get rid of it?
C9 or worse,
Okay,
C9 all the way up to D8.
okay. Thank you for that. All right, for the applicant, what is the construction type of this house? Is it slab on grade or is it pier?
I'm sorry?
The construction type of the proposed structure, is it slab on grade or is it pier with crawl space?
It's slab on grade.
Okay. Did you explore a crawl space with piers for this house?
No, typically we do that at the permitting phase of the house, not under the ARC.
Okay, but you've done a pro
If-
forma construction
if-
budget. Would it be the same cost? Would you not do the pier construction with a crawl space because it's too expensive? That's where I'm going with this.
No, it's the distance in which this particular house type, where no matter where I put it, within this particular house, either way, I'm too close
No,
to the tree.
You're not answering my question. Would you explore
Well,
pier with a crawl space construction?
I've done crawl spaces before, that's not an issue for me, I'll do a crawl
Okay, so it's
space.
not a cost issue for you. All right,
Right.
so Mary, one more question. Sorry to make you sit down. If the house, as it's cited right now, without any movement, if they did an air spade and they did a pier with crawl space construction, and they were okay with that, would that be acceptable to natural resources?
We would prefer to have the structure moved up 5 feet to give a little bit more room to the tree. You never want to build right up on top of a tree again, but,
From the health of the tree,
pardon?
from a health standpoint of the tree, it's possible.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let's see, we've gone over configuration of the proposed structure. Okay, all right. Cost of the alley. Did you do any numbers? Did you run any numbers on improving the alley? In the
You've
event that was your only option, did you run that?
No.
Okay, all right. Those are all the questions I have.
If I may.
Well, hold on one second. Any other questions? You'll get rebuttal. Let's see, all right. So you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay. If I may, what I'd like to do is, it's clear that I've not been able to articulate to the commission the geometries of this tree and where it's located and alternative houses and that sort of thing. What I'd like to do is do a continuance, come back, also will come back with a level 3 risk assessment of the tree, which I have not yet done, but there was a comment made by Natural Resources that there was a permit, there was an application for the tree removal. At the time there was a structure on there, yes, we did make application for a tree removal, but at the time we determined that the structure was not salvageable, then that tree permit was removed. I'm not trying to trick the city into anything.
Sure.
That was the process to go get to some resolution to the old existing house that's now been demolished and the tree that was there. But it appears to me that I've not done a good enough job in articulating kind of where this tree fits into the whole process. Also, this tree, based upon it spending its life with the tension side of the tree being compromised with a house that was there for 60 years, is the house to the east is where the tree is leaning towards. And I think I would be remiss in not getting a level 3 tree evaluation so that we can properly articulate to this commission the true condition of that tree. So I think I'm doing you a disservice. I'm certainly doing me a disservice. And we're just bantering back and forth between Natural Resources and me, the applicant. So with y'all's permission, I'd like to do that and then come back and give you
Excellent.
more detailed information. Do I? Just get me on the agenda as quickly as possible. You what? June's fine.
So I believe just with the dynamics of what needs to be done, June 1st would be the earliest opportunity for this to appear back on the agenda.
Okay, is June 1st acceptable? Okay, so we're looking for a motion?
That's fine, and thank you so much for your time.
Yep, thank you.
May I make a comment before we,
Let's make it quick. I don't know if it's necessary.
I don't feel like we've been bantering back and forth. I think this is a very meaningful exercise, and I think the efforts that the forestry department has gone through to commit to this and do their research is compelling. So I won't oppose a continuance, but if I could foreshadow my position at least, is that the forestry department would have to support this before I could support it.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I move to grant a continuance in the case of ARC 26-00000171 for the property at 407 East Adderley Street to the, was it June 1st?
June 1st.
June 1st, ARC public hearing at 5:30 PM.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
All right, second. So is there any other discussion related to this?
If we could also ask, I don't know if Natural Resources can attend that meeting as well.
I think they will. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion?
I commit to.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been,
To confirm that we're continuing both the variance and the CA to that meeting.
okay. Okay, so we have a motion. It's been seconded. Seeing no more discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And unanimous, the motion passes. Congratulations, look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to step aside for this hearing, and Commissioner Myers will take the helm. I may or may not be back.
Pulling the right-hander.
Commissioners, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Moving on along our agenda this evening, the next item is ARC-25-00000473 for the property at 307 East Idlewild Avenue, located in the Seminole Heights Historic District. This is an application that was previously heard in front of this commission in February and was continued to tonight's hearing. Moving to the photo presentation, if I may. Again, this property at 307 East Idlewild Avenue is located in the Seminole Heights Historic District. You can see it shown here in the district map in green. It is on the north side of the district, so it's north of the Seminole Heights Garden Center, north of Hillsborough Avenue, and, north of Hillsborough Avenue, and it's on Idlewild between Branch and Central Avenues. Again, this is the property on the present-day aerial map. You can see the outline of the local historic district there in the kind of bright blue color. It's on the south side of Idlewild Avenue. And this is the 1920 Sanborn map. I'm showing you this one, which is the one we usually show you. However, the building in question was not there yet, as it hadn't been constructed. It was built in 1937, which still falls within the period of significance for the Seminole Heights Historic District. If you look at the 1951 Sanborn map, which is the first available Sanborn map on which this property shows up, you can see its footprint there. It's a one-story dwelling. You see the little bump out where the front door is on the north side of the building. the accessory structure toward the rear of the property. The building features a cross-gabled, side-gabled front roof with some lower cross gables along it, and those are the little bump outs that you see on the sides there. Moving to the pictures, this is the front elevation or the north side of the existing building. This is the east elevation. And this is the best shot we can get of the north and the west elevation. It's a little tight there along the property line with the driveway that leads back toward the accessory building behind the house. And this is just a shot of the rear of the property. You can see the accessory structure there and some of the backyard elements as well. This is the property directly to the east, a contributing building in the district. And this is another contributing building directly to the west. And then looking north, we see this contributing structure directly across the street at 308 Idlewild. This is the view looking east along Idlewild Avenue, so we're looking toward Central Avenue here. And then looking west, back toward Branch, I believe. A portion of this application is for a front porch addition to the building. So this is the view looking east with the front elevation shown, so you can get a feel for the rhythm along the block there at the front porch location. And then this is the view looking west with the front elevation. I believe that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time, I'll have the applicant present the request for the front porch addition and the rehabilitation of the structure and site improvements. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Dobbs, 5912 North Tampa Street. I want to start out with just sort of mentioning what the goals and objectives are for this project. You know, obviously, we have the porch, but we want to also replace the deteriorating, non-original, and inappropriate aluminum windows. And because replacing the windows with original windows the way they were originally, that's not feasible because the code does not allow it, unfortunately. Obviously, we want to add a front porch. Front porch are a primary character defining feature in Seminole Heights. Almost every house in Seminole Heights has a front porch. And then the third item is considering the cost, appropriateness, and feasibility. We're looking to find the most appropriate solution with minimal alterations to the existing structure. Starting with the site, I don't think I need to go over too much on the site, but the apron is one of the things that transportation requested. There's currently no apron. The porch is here. At the last hearing, we had discussions about the build-to line and everything. We're building, basically where the existing stoop is there currently, and that's pretty much it on the site. The next drawing here shows the existing here. So right now, these are the original brick steps, and then there's this brick stoop that was added at some point. So what we're looking, that's sort of what is defining the depth of the porch. So we're going to replicate that on the other side, and then add relatively small columns for the porch. So there you can see an existing plan, and then the proposed plan with the porch on either side, and then so the original steps are all preserved. This is just built around it, and I have a detail through that. This shows and plan all the windows on the house, which are going to be replaced. So on the elevations, there were, this is the existing front elevation. Obviously, there's no front porch, it was just this entry feature here. And so the porch we're proposing is a shed roof, which we feel is minimally invasive. And also, we have some clearance issues with these windows, with the pitch of the roof, because we wanted to keep the roof below the existing eave, but also have enough slope for water to drain, and also have the beam at a reasonable height. One of the questions at the last hearing was about the porch obscuring this original gable, but also the staff had wanted us to look at different roof forms. So the first thing is addressing the how we're going to obscure that. A monoslope or shed roof is the least obtrusive roof, because this is a person standing at the sidewalk. This is the high sight line, low sight line. That's obviously the roof, and there's the existing window. So you can't get any more minimal than that for the roof. The other thing was looking at different roof options. The first one was looking at a gable. Well, a gable looks very inappropriate. Even if you went straight across, it would look inappropriate. You have this sloped roof conflicting with this sloped roof, it's just not fitting. And also, the other thing is these windows, the top of these windows is about right here, so a roof sloping this way and this way would interfere with the windows. So that's why we did not do a hip roof, because again, maybe I can zoom in here. You can see the top of the window is all the way up here. And then just another alternative was to do something simple where maybe we did another hip to kind of give a little more emphasis on the entry, but again, we still have the issue there. So that was the reason for the form of the roof. The other thing with the porch roof that staff had mentioned in the report was that it's not characteristic or fitting with the form of the house. Well, this house, I think in the staff report it says that it's a Tudor style house. Tudor style houses typically have are asymmetrical, have half timbering and other features. This is more of a minimalist traditional house or Cape Cod style house because of the minimal overhang, the steep roof, the symmetry. And adding the front porch is a secondary roof element. So those are typically addressed, and here's some examples of, this is a Tudor style house. You have the lower pitched roof. Again, you can kind of see the asymmetry there. This is a house that is more of just a vernacular house. But again, the roof, this is a symmetrical house with the 3-bay porch like what we're proposing. And the roof is a secondary element. Notice it is a hip roof, but they don't have the conflict with the windows like we do. This is another house, which is where it's not uncommon for the steeper roof to have a different material. In this case, metal shingles, I think a lot of them had, and then a metal roof. This is one in Seminole Heights. Again, it's the lower slope roof. You have the asymmetry. This is a house in Tampa Heights. This actually has a standing seam, low profile standing seam metal roof here, which is what we're proposing, and it has the metal shingles. So we feel it is an appropriate form for the roof, for the porch roof, and also allow my client to be able to receive packages and it not get wet when it rains, and also to be able to sit out there on the porch. And also I think something like this will add some fitting character to the house. And The next thing with the roof material and section. So, by the way, on the other elevations, you can kind of see how the porch is from the side. There's different usually when you have a porch that has a shed roof, they're either open or closed. So we're closing it. Either one is appropriate. The windows, you'll notice the original windows have a grid. We don't know if that's original or not, so I don't think it's. I don't think we can say that we need to have a grid to match the existing colonial style windows, because simple 1/1 windows are appropriate. And also there's, my client is very challenged on the cost of this because of not being able to do vinyl windows, which I'll get into the windows a little bit later. But in any case, let me go to the section. So the section of the porch, you can see the concrete foundation is independent of the existing house. You have brick here, then you have a relatively small wood column. These are hollow wood box columns. They're pressure treated, manufactured column. The coursing on the brick will have a roll-lock course on the end, no overhang, because the steps don't have any overhang. And then you can see how the porch roof or ceiling has 1x6 tongue and groove. The column has a decorative cap, a wood-clad beam. The same V-groove that's on the ceiling continues on for the overhang, a wood fascia, a small crown molding, which they typically did on these style homes, and then a relatively small drip. I meant to show these pictures earlier. This shows the foundation screen, so we're building in front of that, but all of that is going to remain. This shows the steps, and you can see on this side that the stoop is level with this particular tread right here. There's a little planter well here, so we're actually going to do that on the other side. This gable has this little embattlement that kind of protrudes out the front, but you can see a better view of it right there. The windows are, we're replacing all the windows. It appears a lot of the original trim on the inside and outside is still there, although some of it does need to be repaired or replaced. So, but the house does not have any original windows. So, basically, we're keeping the same exterior trim with the drip cap. Interior casing will be the same, and then we'll have the new window going there. On the side or jamb, same thing. The existing wood casing will be either refurbished or replaced. And notice the offset there. That's an important detail that we're going to maintain. And then also the sill, having a heavier sill to match the existing, and then the inside sill will remain. I think there's something missing there. So the windows are what we struggled with most. At the last hearing, we struggled with them because my client, windows are very, very expensive, and the prices range from over $100,000 for installed windows to like $15,000 for vinyl windows. So I'm going to show some pictures of the windows and then show you the options that we had looked at. There's the inside the window. You can see the original casing. There's a little closer up view. There's another view. You can begin to see they're single pane. That's just a flat aluminum bar, which you can see in a little more detail right here. The exterior of the windows, they're in really bad shape, and they modified the openings to fit a standard size window, which you can see with the extra blocking here. The windows were painted, so a lot of the paint is coming off. There's another series of pictures of the existing windows. Again, this is one of the windows in the front. Again, you can see that they added extra blocking, but you can see the original sill casing and head casing all appear to be original. And again, this is a window on the side, same thing. A little closer up detail of that. On the front, going back to the front, there's planter boxes, and again, you can see what they did there, but that does look all original. And then the head casing, this may have been replaced, so this might be a place where we'll put in new head casing, maybe repair that siding and line this up flush. These horizontally proportioned single or double hung windows are not appropriate style for this house, and also the sill is minimal, so we'll repair that sort of thing. The other thing that we had looked at was windows doing impact versus non-impact. My client really wants to do impact because we don't want to have to deal with, and this is on a house right down the corner of Branch and Idlewild. These are not impact windows, they're original wood windows, but they put these studs here. Now you can avoid the studs, but you still have a cap that goes over that if you don't have the studs. So my client would like to avoid that. The windows, there's option for the windows. We can replace the original, but as I said, we can't do that because they won't meet code. Some historic districts like Key West, they do allow that. In historic districts, you're exempt from meeting the wind code because why put in a window rated for 145 mile per hour wind if the building's not rated for 100 mile per hour? But anyway, so we can replace with wood impact. We can replace with wood non-impact. We can replace with aluminum clad wood. We can replace with vinyl. Or in all the talks we had with different window companies in Tampa, Colby, or used to be Colby, now it's Colby. They have a line called Forgent, which is a fiberglass wood/wood window. So we got prices from all of them. I have all the quotes here. This is a little chart to show you what we were looking at. So you can see this is what we had originally proposed. I'm not sure why the price went up, but I think the original price was from Home Depot maybe, and maybe they missed some windows, but this was from Mansion. So the windows that we are proposing, and I'll show more detailed information on them, is this one right here. When you get into the custom wood windows, you have additional issues related to maintenance and things like that. And then, and there are examples where all of these have been used in the historic district. This is a house that has the vinyl windows, which I had shown last time. And there's this is actually another house. It's interesting that they have the same color scheme. Yeah, they have the same color scheme, but it's a different house. And then these are gelled and vinyl. Now these are the aluminum clad Sierra Pacific H3 windows that were used here. We got a quote from them. And then that's the gelled and premium Atlantic vinyl. And then these windows were done by Pella, and they were the most expensive windows. And I think my client might have some more detail of that because she knows those people pretty well. But again, this was a contributing historic structure that the windows were replaced with non-wood windows. So the windows that we are proposing have been used in Charleston, South Carolina. I believe that's the first historic district in the United States. I just highlighted a few things. This was a thing that I got off the web that points out that some of the things we have to deal with is we need to blend period details with modern day performance of windows. And so these are Forgent windows, and they were approved. They specifically do not. It didn't show up? Oh, okay. There, okay. So they specifically disallow vinyl windows, but they approved these windows. They're a fiberglass window, and Forgent windows there. You can see they showcase performance. No, we aren't doing divided lights, but they have the modern functionality with historically inspired styling. So, yeah, this is just one other little thing here. So this has been the first non-window approved by BAR, that's their Historic Architectural Review Board. And what's important in one of the Secretary of Interior standards is the quality of materials within the district. So, so I think, yeah, we're doing that. I brought this is their brochure, but it's interesting that house in Charleston's actually in their brochure. This is the window corner sample. So one thing now my client is going to go with the white, but one of the things to kind of notice here is the putty glazed profiling here, and then there's also casing details that snap into a groove right there, but we will be using wood on the sides, and it's also wood on the inside. So I'll save this. I'm gonna let my client and her turn and speak.
Hi, I'm Heather Markey. I'm the owner at 307 East Idlewild. We've lived in our house for 19 years and we don't want to move. We want to stay there as long as we possibly can, but our house we feel like needs to be more storm ready. It was said at our last meeting that I needed to look at more options, so I did. I got more quotes on lots of different windows. I got quotes on hurricane coverings, fabric coverings. It was suggested that I look at wood non-impact windows and have a covering over that, but that turned out to be one of the most expensive options that there is, or that I found. It was also mentioned that because our house is only a one-story house, that it shouldn't be a problem putting them up before a storm, but our house is at 5 steps, so that makes our windows almost 12 feet high, which requires 2 people on a ladder to install. Now, when we moved into our house, we were in our 30s. We're in our 50s now. Our son lives out of state. When a storm comes, it's just me and my husband. We used to, haul plywood up, put them on the windows, and And I don't think that's reasonable for us to do long-term. Our neighbors down the street, also a contributing structure, had failing metal windows. He showed you a picture of them. Well, he showed you a picture after they had them done, but they had failing metal windows, and they were allowed by the board to put up non-wood windows, so they could get rid of those. We don't have any wood windows in our house, so I feel like we should be able to also use another option. There are houses that have additions on them. They were allowed to use non-wood windows because obviously there wasn't wood there to begin with. Our windows are ugly and failing and not in keeping with our neighborhood. These windows, I mean, you can see they're wood. They're made of wood. They just have a fiberglass clad on the outside to make them a little bit stronger. I've spoken with our insurance agent. Our insurance is through the roof, and she says that, you know, we can expect to save thousands of dollars every year by replacing our windows with storm windows. And in regards to the front porch, I'll just say what Alan already said. You all have called my house a Tudor, which I agree, it has Tudor features, but I also agree with other architects that have been to my house before that thought it was just as much a Cape Cod. So that would change, you know, what is appropriate. I feel like my house is a simple house, but it has a lot of different features from a lot of different styles. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, members of the commission. My name is Scott McLaren. I'm at 101 East Kennedy Boulevard. I have been sworn, and I'm here on behalf of Heather and her husband Luke tonight. I don't really have much to add with respect to the porch. I think that last time we were here, I thought the board had some good questions and comments. Mr. Dobbs has made an effort to address all those, made several drawings I think that y'all asked for, and so he's, I think, done that, and I think, you know, his presentation kind of shows, I'm certainly not an architect or not any board, but from a lay person's perspective, what looks to be a reasonable solution. Heather and Luke do need a place where they can be out of the elements and sit on the porch, and also where they can receive packages without the fear of being rained on, et cetera. So with respect to the windows, I think the photos have been shown, but what's, you know, really impressive is the quality of these windows that are being proposed. I mean, this is a very high quality fiberglass wood clad window. It's not just a fiberglass window. It is an impact resistant window. It's hurricane resistant. It's a safe window. It will provide long-lasting viability to this house and protect the house from a windstorm, and as well as protect Heather and her family. It will do a lot to enhance the historic character of the home. Right now, the windows, as you saw, the windows are in disrepair. They're, you know, the mid-century. Do I control? Okay, thank you. Whoever did that. You know, they're the classic aluminum metal windows that are very thin and you know, are really not safe in a storm, and certainly out of character with the neighborhood and this this contributing structure. Last time we were here, Mr. Villa spoke, and he talked about all wood windows. And you've seen some of the estimates on the all-wood windows that are possible. And the only ones that are even close to the same cost, I mean, and these are still, you know, probably $10,000 more plus installation, would require as Alan called them, studs or grommets. I'm not sure what the term is, but, you know, those are unattractive from the street. And Mr. Villa commented, well, those can be covered up. Well, that concedes that really the issue here is how do these windows look from the street? And these fiberglass and wood clad windows that are being proposed, you cannot tell the difference on the street from an all wood window And they're certainly superior in look to a wood window that would not be storm resistant and would require those grommets. Here are some photos of these windows. I wish the photos were a little better, I'll be honest. These are taken from Beach Park. These are the aluminum, these fiberglass and wood-clad windows that are proposed. This is in Beach Park. This is a house that's, I believe, a historic home right on the water in Beach Park, with these windows installed in black. I believe those that are proposed would be white, from the exterior. And then I think also kind of from a fairness and equal protection perspective, there are other homes just in the same historic neighborhood. Here's a contributing structure at 6001 Swanee, which is very close to the subject property. And here is a photo. These are actually the historic wood windows on a structure. And then these are in the exterior. These are aluminum clad, not fiberglass clad, but aluminum clad, not all wood, from the exterior. And you can't tell the difference between the all wood and the aluminum clad, nor can you tell the difference in an aluminum clad, I would suggest, or the fiberglass clad. So we think really from every perspective that there's really no evidence to support a denial of this application. Everything has been proposed. It really, what tells you, if I could just have a few more seconds, what tells you the quality and appropriate appearance of these proposed windows is these proposed windows meet the Charleston Historic Board of Architectural Review's standards. And I mean, I don't think there's a more exacting historic district than that in Charleston, South Carolina. So for those reasons, we would respectfully request your approval. Ms. Allen has something more?
Yeah, just one, excuse me, one last couple of things. Because I don't, oh, 1 second. Okay. Okay, I won't say anything else.
I think,
Okay.
shall we move on to staff report?
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Staff found this application initially with the proposed aluminum replacement windows. We had found it to be consistent with conditions. The proposed window that the applicant is showing today for the rehabilitation of the building is one that we're not familiar with, and I do not believe this board has reviewed and approved previously. The Seminole Heights design guidelines for this district with respect to windows talk mostly about how it's appropriate to maintain the historic wood windows when they're present, and how it's inappropriate to replace them with alternate materials. The Seminole Heights design guidelines do state on page 20 that the application of replacement materials that are not characteristic of the building would obscure the original character of the building and the neighborhood. The Secretary of the Interior Standards and Guidelines for Rehabilitation recommend replacing incompatible non-historic windows with new windows that are compatible with the character of the building and its size, scale, and materials. I think it would be useful to see the installation details, but that the applicant previously, I think it would be useful for this board to analyze those very closely there. I would like to show you some additional photos as well, if I may. Moving to the monitors. Let me know, is that over there? Okay. So these are several of the buildings along Idlewild, Central, and we'll look also at the buildings on Branch, and I believe the one on Sewanee that came up a couple of times here. These are wood windows. They're prevalent throughout this area, and you can see them on many of the contributing buildings on Idlewild and on the adjacent streets. There's just a few more there. Looking at 6001 North Sewanee Avenue, which was brought up by the applicant and the agent. This particular project, you can see this is the before picture from 2018. This came before the board with the request to replace the windows in an area that's on the south side of the building there. That would be on the right-hand side of the house, the way we're looking at it. Here in this picture, where you can see the aluminum windows that were installed prior to 2018. So the request was to replace those windows in particular in this area of the house that was actually a enclosed porch. So originally this section of the house had not been enclosed, and there had been no windows in that enclosure originally, since it wasn't enclosed. The original wood windows you can see there in the front bay, and there's a close-up shot of that window. Looking at the side, these are the ARC approved drawings showing just the window replacement in those areas. That was the previously enclosed porch. And this is sort of a close-up shot of the final windows once they were installed. And these are the Pella aluminum-clad wood windows. So a few of the things that we look for when we evaluate replacement windows at the staff level are the depth and the panning of the window as it will be placed back into the wood frame wall to make sure that you do get that sort of historic reveal. And also we look at the window itself. Sort of a key element in wood windows is how the members of the window are joined together, like so I would maybe request taking a closer look at the corner piece provided by the applicant to see the joining methods there. Moving on to the front porch. Staff had classified this as a Tudor Revival style house based on some of its elements. Tudor is a style that is provided in the McAllister Field Guide to American Houses, which is our primary reference book for architectural styles in the United States. Characteristic of the Tudor style, this house has the steeply pitched roof, and that's represented in the front side gable of this house and its lower cross gables, including the one over the primary entrance. One of the subtypes that McAllister identify for the Tudor style is the wooden wall cladding subtype. And you can see this frequently on modest examples, or I guess occasionally, sorry. You can see this on modest examples that have weatherboard or shingled walls. And I'll show you some examples of that in a minute. Looking at some of the just details that you might find on Tudor buildings, on residences, you can see that they do vary. On the upper left, there's some roof variations shown. And on the upper right, you can see some of the typical entrances that one might find on a Tudor-style house. And then the more elaborate examples, of course, might have some greater detailing and as shown in the additional diagrams. So the wooden wall cladding subtype of this, there's an example in addition to this particular building at 307 Idlewild. There's another contributing house on 5706 North Central that exhibits this a bit in its steep roof pitches and its arched entryway. On the left, of course, is the page from McAllister showing some of the examples that McAllister felt were good representations of the wooden wall cladding subtype of the Tudor style. Moving outside moving outside the Seminole Heights Historic District, but still within a National Register listed historic district, we see just a couple of examples here is one at 1015 East Mohawk Avenue, and then a very, very simple one, but it does have the steep roof and the prominent chimney like you do see in these examples as well. That's at 1003 East Henry Avenue, again in Hampton Terrace. Note on these examples that, you know, their front porch is not a prominent feature. However, there are ways to accommodate a front porch or a front entrance covering on the style of building, and as it was discussed at the prior public hearing in February, that the design that this board was looking for was something that would be more consistent with the building's architectural style. With that, I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, let's ask, can the commissioners now ask questions? We'll start on my left.
Hi, just a couple of questions.
Sure.
So the windows, all the windows need to be replaced?
None of the windows are original, they all need to be replaced, and they're all gonna be, all the existing opening sizes are gonna remain exactly the same. Because
Okay,
we're
so
gonna
let me
keep.
break that down just a
Right,
little bit.
sorry, okay.
So they're all gonna be replaced?
Yes,
They're all right now aluminum?
yes,
They're all non-original?
correct.
And you're not gonna take them back to their, right, because there was some filling in the size of the windows, right? So explain that.
Yeah, so we're gonna bring them back to their original size, because in the photographs I showed, you could see where they added blocking, like above the sill.
Yeah,
Because the window wasn't as tall as the original opening, our windows are gonna all fit the original openings.
okay, so you're gonna open up, take out that
Yeah, all that's good,
blocking.
yeah, all the non-original stuff is gonna be removed.
Okay.
Correct.
And what were you requesting in February for the windows?
Well, we were requesting the Geldman Premium Atlantic Vinyl, which
vinyl.
is
Okay.
approved for new construction. But we felt it was an uphill battle, and we spent a lot of time and effort talking, what did we get, like 6 or 7 window quotes? And we thought probably the fiberglass, the Colby Forgent would be a good compromise. And then when we found that it was approved for use in Charleston Historic District, we thought, okay, well, this would be a good compromise. Because cost is a big concern, obviously, for my client, so.
So were the aluminum, I'm sorry, the wood-clad aluminum windows, were those looked at, or?
Well, Sierra Pacific aluminum clad wood windows, yeah, those were one of the windows that we priced.
And how much were those? I can't recall
Oh,
that
yeah,
on
yeah.
the chart that you had. And it's on the screen, but we're waiting for it to appear on our screen. There we go.
The price that
Okay.
we got for the Sierra Pacific Feel Safe aluminum clad wood window, non-impact, is $38,000. So to get it an impact, it would be even more than that.
Okay.
And that's without install, right?
Right. So, okay. So then you went to the fiberglass, right, wood clad because it's impact resistant.
It's impact, and when we went and saw the window and saw the profile of the stile and rail and stuff, we thought it was, would be an appropriate window.
How is that different than the aluminum clad window, in your opinion?
Well, it's less expensive.
Other than that,
well,
from
part of the
the
aluminum clad-
look of it, from the install, any of
Yeah.
that, what are
Well,
the differences?
the install is basically the same because they both have the fin thing. Yeah, so it's basically the same install.
Okay. All right, I don't have anything further right now. Thank you.
Could you pass the window up to the board so that
Sure.
we could look at something closer than this? And while we're looking at that, and I want to look at it too, we keep hearing Charleston. The windows that were approved in Charleston were not on a contributing structure, correct? They were on a new build. That's what I understood. That's what I heard.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a new build in
Mhm.
Charleston. It's not a replacement window in a historic
Correct.
contributing structure. Okay. Because that's an important kind of distinguishing factor. Now, this is obviously an insulated unit. You're not using an insulated unit,
No, we're
correct?
doing, insulated impact, yeah.
You're doing an insulated impact.
Yeah, that's the only way to get the low E coating is by doing insulated glass.
Okay, well, it changes the placement of the glass in the sash and everything else like that. There's not the same amount of depth. When you put the insulated unit in, it widens the glass and everything comes closer to the face of the sash. And there's not as much depth in the sash and shadow lines and that kind of thing. So this is this not basically a fiberglass window with wood interior trim? The actual structure of the window is fiberglass. This is not a fiberglass
believe so.
clad
You
window.
you could do wood or fiberglass on the interior.
Okay, so but the window itself, this isn't a fiberglass cladding. This is a fiberglass window.
No, you're right, yeah.
Okay, all right. Pass that along. I think you mentioned earlier your discussion about the quote-unquote style of this house is not Tudor, correct? What do you
Well,
see it as?
It's like most of the houses in Summer Heights, it's eclectic, it has a little bit of everything.
It's a combination.
I wish Elaine would have showed some minimalist revival houses, because there are a lot of those, and this more closely resembles that. A lot of the houses she showed, they were almost all asymmetrical.
Yeah.
And they had a lot more detailing.
Okay.
And the fireplaces were a little more prominent position on the front. They had to
Okay.
have timbering, obviously.
All right. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
No questions.
I have no questions, thank you.
Yeah, then I'm up. Alan, do you have a detail, your window installation detail by chance to show us in your, in your details, do you have something showing what the offset is on the windows that you're going to install?
The window details that I have, Elaine, is it possible for you to pull those details up for the project that you showed on Branch? Huh? The installation details for the Pella windows? I'd like to
But
be
you're
able to-
not using so the.
No, I know,
okay.
but I wanted to show the
Okay.
difference between those drawn details and the details that I have drawn.
Got it, okay.
There, yeah. If you look in the lower left, I don't know if you can zoom in, but those details on the ARC-approved drawings are nothing like what they were installed. Because, like, for example, if you look at the sill detail, it's just a square sill. Sills are tapered at the top. The interior sill is extended way too far. The casing on the top, the way it sticks out, it looks like it's in the same plane as the sill below, which is not the way it's typically done. The details that I have drawn, if we can go back to the Elmo or Wolf, what we're doing or proposing now, I just realized this is the window we had before, but the panning that Elaine was talking about, that distance is very important. That's why you have the heavier trim, so the window will be set back, so you have that relief there. And as you saw on this window, yeah, you do have the thicker sash because you have the thicker glass, but you still have, let's see, I don't know if that can show it, but you still have, that's probably about 3/8 of an inch or so. I'm not sure if it's showing it. You can see a little bit there. So as I mentioned, the casing remains where it is. The window gets placed in the proper position so that we have the proper profile panning. And then where we don't have the original sills, we go back and put in original sill.
Okay. The front porch, Elaine had pulled up a couple pictures in her staff report, and the second that showed front entryways that were just the front entryway itself, not over the porches. Have we explored those options at all, or?
You mean not doing a porch?
Yeah, well, there's an entryway that's a covered entryway. So we have heard that we're looking for a place to be able to take our packages and not get them wet, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It looked like there was a couple options that Elaine had presented that provided that for you, possibly. Have we?
Well, anything you do with the entry, you're going to have to remove the front door and then move it back? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about taking the front facade, moving it forward.
Well, then if you do
It's just a
that,
front-
you're basically creating a portico, which is a small entry porch, which is not functional at all. And Elaine, if you could go to page 168 of McAllister, it was in your presentation of the Tudor style houses. I think what we need to keep in mind too with the design guidelines, they're not prescriptive guidelines, although that's probably an oxymoron. What we need to determine, is it appropriate or not? But also realize in the end, everything we're proposing can be removed and the building restored to the way it was originally.
Right.
Very simply, that's the way, while we're doing the windows the way we're doing, that's the way I designed the porch the way we designed it, so it can always be easily removed later.
Okay.
So anyways, what Elaine's pulling that up, yes, I think it's the next one. Yeah, if you look in the lower left side, the picture on the right, that's a symmetrical facade. And notice it has a hip roof. All the other examples that she showed, including like the one at the top right in that picture, are more like just very, very minimal covered entries, not a porch that you can live on. And as I mentioned before, porches are a very important feature in Seminole Heights for the character they provide to the house, and also functionality as well. So yeah, we didn't look at any options for just putting the roof over the stairs, because that doesn't, yeah, that will protect packages, but you can't sit out there, and that was one of the things my client wanted to be able to do.
And my last question, did you provide a detail showing overhang, the rafters, soffit
Oh,
fascia.
yeah, I can show that again.
I'm sorry,
I
yeah.
talked about it in the wall section, but
I'm sure you did. You're very thorough normally, so.
yeah. So if we can go back to the wolf. Okay, so, yeah, I can zoom in here.
Okay, that's all I needed to see.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
so you
I'm
can
good.
see how it's all noted there.
Yep. That's all, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so, Mr. Dobbs, the fiberglass window versus the fiberglass, not clad, but fiberglass window, it seems we've come to this, but the aluminum clad window, the framing elements for the glass lights were approximately the same size, or,
Yeah,
or-
I should have brought it. I have the Sierra Pacific H3 corner sample. And I'm testifying under oath, the sash, panning or whatever, how far the glass is set back from the face of the sash is exactly the same. And they both have the same putty glaze profile, which is basically just a 45-degree angle.
and what I'm asking about is the dimension of the framing element.
You talking about the dimension of the style and the rail?
Yeah. Like that's a 4-inch, right, or something like it.
Oh,
So
wait, are you
those-
talking about the depth of the frame?
No, I'm talking about the width, I guess I should be saying, using
Oh,
width.
okay. Well, it looks like it's about 2.5 inches or so, which is typical for wood window sashes. And
Okay.
sometimes they are a little heavier at the bottom, especially with single, double hung, but a lot of times they're the same as well.
I-
So,
I-
is that what you're getting at?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm asking, and I personally would have liked to have a little firmer, a firmer knowledge of that, because we're looking at the appearance of this window, kind of from the street, right? And so the width of those framing elements, to me, seems important. And typically, and this is a question for staff, typically, while we recommend that the scale of the framing elements and other elements within the window and the depth of the panning should be similar to that is typical in the neighborhood, if there are no existing windows in the structure, no historic windows remaining in the structure, then we have no firm example to look to say it needs to be like this. You need to complete this with wooden windows. Am I correct there? Staff?
I'm thinking, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I believe, so when we don't have an example, any evidence from the actual building itself, we look to the houses that would be similar to it in style and construction method and period of construction in the district. The wood sash windows are highly typical of buildings throughout the district that are contributing, that were built during the district's period of significance. There are some casement windows that you may see throughout the historic district. They are not nearly as common as the sash windows, but they, again, were wood windows as well, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. So now, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal to our questions.
Yeah, is that all the questions?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I would just like to say a couple of things in summary. First off, in regards to the porch roof, we feel the porch roof is compatible with the style of the house, and it's common for some tutors, like that one picture, and then also some of the examples that I had shown. And also, in the staff report, it said that the porch diminished the architectural integrity of the house, which we don't feel it does. We feel it enhances it. And it's very common to have porches as a secondary element on the front of the house. And, you know, any kind of a roof like a flat or gable, front-facing gable, even if it's the width of the existing front gable would be not appropriate. And then I just want to reinforce that these windows are, as I mentioned to you, that all the openings are going to remain the original size, and all the windows are going to be the same proportions as the original windows. Like I mentioned, some of the horizontal windows, you know, those would be replaced. Those are going to be replaced with 2 windows. So, and then lastly, you know, these are design guidelines, and I think it's important to recognize some of the practical difficulties. Obviously, you know, us with finding the right windows, we spent so much time talking to all the major window suppliers, trying to get the right window that balances functionality with form and what would be historically appropriate. So I'm sure Scott would you like to say anything?
No, I think you've done a great job, Alan, so thanks. I really don't have much else to say other than both by, in terms of quality, safety, and appearance. I think these windows more than adequately meet the standards. There's certainly, I don't think, been evidence that there's a material difference between the appearance or quality or durability of these windows from other windows that have been approved within the district. Haven't heard a word about that. So I don't think there's really enough evidence to support denial. But, overall, I think what Heather and Luke are trying to do is improve their home in a manner that improves their structure tremendously and is much more in keeping with the historic character of the neighborhood and what's there presently. And so with that, we would respectfully request your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are we ready to close the public hearing? All right. So Commissioner discussion, I will begin on my right.
We spoke about this the last time when they came here, and I just putting the roof on the front porch just changed the entire front facade of this home and the entire feel of this home. I struggle with that. It's a very unique home, the way it looks, and changing that front facade just completely changed it. That's my first thought. My second thought is the windows. This is a new material, and if we approve these windows, we are setting a precedence for all the future windows that get brought before us. And obviously, they've provided windows before that were acceptable. They haven't, but other applicants have. So, and sometimes the options are expensive. That's unfortunate. But so that's, I don't know that I can approve of what we've got in front of us. So that's my opinion.
I'll jump in and say,
You'll just jump in.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you want to go in
We
order?
were going in order.
You want to go in order? I didn't know you wanted
I'm
to go
just
in order.
following the
Go ahead.
chair's
Go in order.
direction.
We don't normally go in order for discussions, but go ahead.
I'll be brief. I'll be brief. I agree that on the porch, I agree that the changes do significantly change the look of it, but I was persuaded by what was presented tonight that it was sufficient to become more complementary and not as offensive, I think, as I think some of us thought some of the former designs were. So I would be comfortable with the addition as it's been presented. On the windows, I've commented on this before, I think it is time that we as a commission and frankly that the city recognize the conflict between the functionality and practicality balanced with compatibility. And without knowing all of the technical aspects of this window, and I would defer to staff on that, but I find that the look, the feel, and maybe there's some element of minutia in the sizing of how the glazing interacts with the fiberglass, but it looks like they've gone through an extraordinary amount of effort to try to find that balance between functionality, practicality, and compatibility. So I would also support the evolution of how we look at window replacement. And that, in this case, is that not a single window in the structure is historic. The windows that are there now are offensive. They've compromised the original size of the structure's windows, and the intention of this applicant to restore some of those historic features and yet still find something contemporary. So I would support both requests.
Stay in order, go ahead.
Am I in order? As far as the front porch goes, I think the design, and I said this in the last time, that it's appropriate. For a couple of reasons that have been kicked around here, is that I don't think the designation of the elements of the style that has been tagged with are strong enough. And I think that it could easily go another direction. I just don't feel like it's got enough of the Tudor aspects to really put it solidly in that category. So I find that the porch design is, I like it. I think it's going to add a lot of character to the house in a positive way. And then as far as the window goes, I find it, I could support this because we've got to find a way to help kind of bridge that gap going forward on the projects that come before us. And this one I think is a bit unique in that, you know, like Commissioner said, that, you know, all the windows are getting replaced. They're all bad. And I think that, you know, the things that are before us will significantly improve the character of the house. Thank you.
Now I may speak. I don't see any kind of difference chemically or otherwise between vinyl and fiberglass. They're the same thing. You might as well put a vinyl window in if you're going to put a fiberglass window in. Okay? This is not a clad. This is not a cladding or covering. This structure, this window, is completely made of this plastic. It's extruded plastic. We had a fight several years ago about doing this to a contributing structure, to a contributing house. You could do these kinds of things and use these alternate materials on outbuildings. You can use them on additions, but you cannot substitute the materiality of the actual windows in a contributing structure. I go through this. I speak to the SHPO in Tallahassee at least once a week on all the projects I'm working on about materiality and what's an acceptable substitute and what's not an acceptable substitute. This is plastic. This is a plastic window in a historic contributing structure, and that is not an acceptable alternate material because it was not, well, one of the main reasons they argue is it wasn't available when the house was built, and that's kind of one of the rules. It's also not something that you can't easily, yeah, you can replace it down the road, but it does set a dangerous precedent. So I also disagree with I agree with my fellow commissioner here, Brian, that I think the porch is a lovely addition, and even though it alters the character of the house, it alters it in a positive way, okay? That's what additions to historic structures do. You're supposed to be able to put additions on historic structures and alter the character of the house and improve the house. So, I mean, I'm all for the porch and the way it was designed and the scale and the simplicity of it. I cannot swallow that even though they brought up the Charleston acceptability, yes, in a new construction in this historic district, we would have less of an issue with the fiberglass window. And, you know, just because Charleston has been around older and longer than us doesn't mean that they have anything on us, okay? They would not have allowed this, probably more than likely, but I bet, you know, everything I have, that they would not allow this in a contributing structure in Charleston. The fact that it's insulated in impact, I think, is also altering the appearance of the window. And it would be very different if it was just an impact piece of glazing and not an insulated impact piece of glazing, because there'd be a whole lot more bite, you know, of sash and all that kind of stuff. And the increase in the change in R value that you get for adding the insulated glazing to just an impact glass is very, very minimal. The impact glazing with the vinyl lining inside the thing does an awful lot for the R value of the house. It only increases it by like tiny percentage by putting the insulation on. So I don't like this window. I don't like the way it was presented. I don't like it's got a 45-degree mitered corner in the sash, which no window, historic window, would ever be presented with a 45 mitered corner. So I would approve the porch. I would disapprove the windows.
Which windows would you approve?
I would have to have them presented to me. I mean, I could pick a window. I could pick. I don't know what those windows are made out of.
The wood, aluminum.
I have no idea what those windows look like. I would have to look at the exact model of window being presented to us. That's why I asked to see the window up close.
So the aluminum wood-clad windows, are those acceptable?
I couldn't tell you unless I saw the window.
Okay.
But no, in general, unless the house had well, we don't have any history of the house. We don't know if the house ever had metal casement windows. Could have.
So
And then a metal window would be appropriate.
my position is, I agree. The porch, I think the house is wonderful. I love the front entrance. I love that you can see it. But I don't think that my personal opinion about what I would do if it were my house should govern. I'm not convinced, you know, that it's fully Tudor. I mean, I'm not an architect, so without the strong elements, I'm fine with the porch. The window, I think for this particular house, limited to this house, because there are no original windows, and because they're opening back up the windows to their original size, which I think is fantastic. I think I agree with the other we need to let folks have hurricane-resistant windows. And I think for this particular one only, where they're replacing all of the windows, I'd be in favor of this window. If there was a house that came that they were replacing only some of the windows and not all of them, I'm not sure I would feel the same, because it may be visually different. But I think for this one, and where it says replacing incompatible non-historic windows with new windows that are compatible with the historic character of the building, or reinstating windows and openings that have been filled in, which are going to happen. Now, it's debatable, are they compatible with the historic character of the building? What does that really mean? Does that mean the material? I think for this instance, it means the look of it, and I think it's going to look great. And so I'd be in favor of both of them.
The word compatibility tends to, it's defined, it's well defined in the Secretary of the Interior standards.
Yep.
And the Secretary, changing the material to something that was not available in the day and age the building was built is not a compatible material.
That is from the Secretary of Interiors. That language
Yeah.
that I quoted is from the Secretary of Interiors. And so, to me, we got to find ways to let these folks replace the awful looking windows that they currently have, and honestly not spend $100,000.
Agree, and I
mean,
am,
you cannot ask homeowners to spend $100,000.
But you can do
on-
hurricane windows without insulated hurricane windows, and we don't know what the price of that is, if it's just an impact window.
the chair has.
Is anyone ready to provide
I'm close.
I'd like to have two motions, if you would, one for the window and one for the porch. Thanks.
Okay. So I move to grant a certificate of appropriate, I'm gonna do the porch first. Okay. Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at the public hearing in ARC 25-00000473 for the property located at 307 East Idlewild Avenue because based upon the findings of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that the porch is consistent with the Seminole Heights Guidelines, is a permissible addition to the home, and meets the Secretary of Interior standards.
I'll second.
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 All right. It has been moved and seconded, as stated, the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes. You have a front porch that is approved. Now, a second motion for concerning the windows.
Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing at ARC 25-00000473 for the property located at 307 East Idlewild Avenue, because based upon the findings of fact, the proposed project with respect to the replacement of all the windows on the structure is consistent with the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that replacement of all of the windows meets the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines and the Secretary of Interior's standard guidelines with respect to replacement of windows.
Second.
Just
With-
to clarify, this would be the product that was presented at this public hearing, the window product.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so amended.
And this is a unique situation.
Yes, that the replacement of all of the windows with this specific product presented at the meeting and the opening up of all the windows are approved because they meet the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Design Guidelines.
And may I just add that that replacement is prefaced on the fact that the existing, there are no historically relevant windows in the home at this time. None of the windows are historic.
Yeah.
So-
Second.
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 All right. It has been moved, it has been moved and seconded. May I call a vote?
Yes.
All right. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Thank you very much, everyone. Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Moving down our agenda this evening, we come next to item ARC-25-00000500 for the property located at 506.5 East Park Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This is an application at a vacant parcel for new construction of a single-family residence with site improvements. I'll go through the photo presentation. This particular site in the Tampa Heights Historic District is located in the south half of the historic district. It is on Park Avenue on the block east of Central Avenue. And the interstate, the interchange between Interstate 4 and Interstate 275 is located just to the east of the historic district at this location. This is the 1920 Sanborn map of the area showing the subject site in green. You can see at that time there was a residence on this property. You can see that these, the lots along this block, along Park Avenue, are a bit on the undersized size. They're shorter than the typical blocks, the typical lots on the adjacent blocks. And you can see that their front yard setbacks are much closer to the street, to the front of the park property line than they are, for example, a block north on Francis Avenue. This is the 2025 aerial photograph showing the subject site, again in green, and the boundaries for the local and national historic districts are shown over just to the right along the interchange ramps for the interstates. This is looking north onto the vacant lot. This is the property directly to the east, a non-contributing structure in the historic district. This is the property directly to the west, 506 East Park Avenue. This is a contributing historic structure in the district. And then this is the property across the street to the south, 507 East Park Avenue, another contributing structure in the district. Looking east on Park Avenue, you can see the interstate directly past the end of the street. And then looking west on Park Avenue, we're looking back towards Central Avenue here, and the subject property would be on your right. And that concludes the photo essay, so at this time I'll ask the applicant to present his request.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Rios. I am the applicant. I'm also the contractor. So I'll try to be brief. We've been here for a while, so try to be brief. So this is the site plan here. Yeah. All right. So this is the fourth site plan that we have. We met various times. I've met Elaine like 3 times already, trying to get this to conform to what is to what's acceptable. Over here, the issue or why we had to change it various times. The biggest thing is this pecan tree that's here. I don't know if you guys could. Yeah, you can see it. All right. Yeah, let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that pecan tree is in the neighbor's yard on the east side. But what we did to address that was first we wanted a slab on grade construction, but then we moved to a pile and lintel foundation in order to protect that tree. And we'll have an arborist there when we're doing our piles and all that. And then the structure was wider. We made it more narrow to fit the setbacks that were needed, and also the parking here on the left side. And the reason we're parking on the left side is because we have the tree on the right. So I had to put it on the left. And this setback here conforms to all the other block average setbacks. You can see all the addresses there. And I will show you, are you okay with the site plan? Do you need to see it anymore? No? Okay, all right. I also have a copy if you guys need it. Here are the elevations of it. Okay. What it's gonna look like. So the front columns are very similar to another property that's on the same street. This is 504. So this is where we got our inspiration from, or what we're designing to. It's gonna look exactly like this with the brick and the column shape and all that. And if you see the side of the elevation, you see the pile. You see the different piles, and you see the hex cladding here for the crawl space. And then what we used for some other contributing structures, we already mentioned 504, but this one is on 2106 North Central Ave. Yeah, 2106 North Central Ave. Looks very similar to the structure we're proposing. Okay. And this is a new construction. These are some townhouses that are right on Central Ave, 2204. They're on the west side, but they're on Central Ave. And they look something like that. So it's very similar to the designs that are around it. Okay. And this is something like what we want to build. It's gonna look like that at the end, something like that. But this, I got this from the Hardy website. We're gonna do the Hardy board siding, same shingles. The roof is gonna be shingle, but something very similar to this with the same type of windows. Our windows are gonna be with the grid in the bottom as well. The front door is gonna be a full view window, a full view door, all aluminum. And these are the kind of like the color palette that we're looking for, something that will appeal to a lot of maybe first-time home buyers or a lot of people. Something that's what we're looking at. We think it'll be a very nice improvement to what we have there. I mean, you guys saw the house to the east side of it, you know. So we think it'll be a very nice improvement to the area. That's all I got.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple. I also have, because it's in the worksheet, I also have all different type of material that we have. This is gonna be the siding. You guys saw an example of it already, but the siding conforms to this, that this is approved. It's on the approved list. This is gonna be the wood lattice, crawl space with the brick. That's also on the approved list. Front door is gonna look exactly like that. Okay. This is a picture of the front door. It's gonna be bronze, but that's from ES Windows. And these are the windows, something like that. That's an approved style of window already. Looks like that. This is from the architectural board website. And I'll take this out. This is something like what we want to present for the exterior fixtures, like a farmhouse style, modern farmhouse style. This is going to be, the shingle is going to be GAF, architectural. Okay. They're all hurricane rated. I mean, you guys all know about that. And something like this for the door hardware. So, very simple, but very nice.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, one more thing. Today's my anniversary. My wife is back there, so. 19 years. And she came with me here.
She deserves a medal.
Yeah, she does. She does. So.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Elaine?
Okay. For the staff report, we found this application to be consistent with conditions with the Tampa Heights Design Guidelines and the Secretary of the Interior Standards. The issuance of the certificate of appropriateness should be contingent on the approval of a design exception for the front yard setback to reduce it from the 25 feet required by the RM24 zoning category. This reduction would allow for the front yard setback to be consistent with the other buildings along the block as we call for it to be in the historic districts. Additionally, the certificate of appropriateness is contingent upon the approval of a transportation design exception for the truncated apron flare on the west side of the apron adjacent to the property line. There were some other conditions for the site plan. We want to make sure that all the mechanical units, concrete pads, steps, front walkway are all shown as they will be in their locations where they will be installed, that any fencing and gates proposed are clarified, and that all drives and walkways should be scored in a historically appropriate manner. For the elevations, we just want to make sure that the window sizes are consistent in their proportions, and as we see with historic windows, typically, particularly on the front elevation, they should have a greater height to width ratio rather than the other way around. The trim details should be reviewed to make sure that they will be historically appropriate for the window trim and the doors and the vent. And I believe you also need to review the wall section. I would note that the porch finish materials, including the ceiling, the porch slab, whether it's to be concrete or another material, should be called out, as well as the materials for the columns and the steps. And then finally, on the windows, just please note that we do typically require for any grids to be not just between the glass, but also interior and exterior as well. With that, I'm available if you have questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, is there anyone in the public to speak for or against this project? All right, not seeing anyone. Knowing it's your anniversary, you don't get off the hook from the questioning.
No problem. Throw them at me.
And my understanding is your first time you presented to us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're gonna have the commissioners ask questions, but one of the big things that you left out is because this is on the record, you gotta give us a lot more information about materials. So
Okay.
since we're on the record, that's gonna come up and we're gonna try to speed up the process, but for future reference, we kinda want it to look like this. Is not satisfactory. You have to say, this is what I'm proposing, so we can.
Okay, this is what I'm proposing. This is what I'm proposing. It's gonna be, well, the details here on the wall.
Well, let me
Yeah.
start here on my right.
Okay. On your site plan, can you show me where your ACs are gonna be located?
I don't see it right now on the site plan, but they'll be in the back here, out of sight.
Okay, and do you have any screening around those ACs to be able to screen them from the neighbors? Do you have fencing or bushes or anything like that that's
Yeah,
gonna
we
go
can put
around?
bushes around it. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Front walkway, is that on there?
Yep, right here, should be right here. I don't know if I see it. No. It's-
Okay, so that's not, okay.
Yeah,
How about you, are you gonna have any fencing?
no.
No fencing, okay?
There's fencing already existing, but it's chain link and all that. I think they belong to the neighbors though.
It's on, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Drives and walkways, no. Do you have any wall sections that show trim details,
Yeah.
window installs?
Yep, right here. And this shows all the material. Shows the shingle, how the connect, well, this is the structural connector.
It appears that your window install, can you zoom in on the window install? Yee.
Yeah.
There you go, yeah. So it appears that is your window install flush with the exterior of the wall? Or is it set back? It looks like it's flush.
Yeah.
It's flush?
Yeah, it's a wood structure, so you,
Okay.
yeah.
So your porch, do you have details for your porch, the overhang, what's the ceiling of, what's the?
Well, we wanted, again, we're gonna make it look like this. So, you can see the rafters and you can see all that here. So it'll be tongue and groove and then with the, with the exposed rafters, just like this.
But you don't have any plans you don't have anything drawn in detailed view of what those rafter tails are, what the ceiling is, what the,
No, apparently not.
okay, all right.
Apparently not. But we took, like I said, I took pictures of the house right next door, 504.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your windows and doors, this would be the last thing I bring up.
Mm-hmm.
The windows and doors, do you have your manufacturer for your windows and doors?
Yeah, yes, windows.
Yeah, do you have a model spec?
I don't have a model, so I took pictures of it. I would have to go on the website and see, but these are the windows and doors. They're from ES Window. They're all.
Can you zoom out a little bit?
They're all Dade County, Florida approved, impact rated. They're non-insulated, so.
Okay.
But they're impact rated windows and doors.
Okay, no further questions.
Commissioner Jones, if I might expand on that, because I had a question about the windows too, when you showed them. If we could clarify, are they casement windows or are they, do they operate?
Yeah, single hung.
Because that's not what that's depicting in that photo.
Yeah, they're single hung windows. You can see them here. Also going.
Well, and again, your elevations show 1/1, and then you showed us a picture that said, this is what we want. It was, I think, a 4/1 or something like that. So what is it that you really,
It's gonna be with a grid pattern.
okay, so
You said
4/4?
Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah.
that's- All right.
Thank you. Couple quick questions. The DE on the setback is going from 25 to 19 feet?
It's going to 12
Or
feet.
it's less, it's going to 12.
Yeah,
Where did I see 19? It says you got,
it says here 12, 12, 13, 12. And this is consistent with the rest of the,
can you blow that up? I'm sorry.
yeah, no problem. See, you see right here? So the porch.
Yep, okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is consistent with the rest of the properties next to it. These are all these addresses are on the same
Okay.
block, yeah.
And that, just to reiterate, was suggested by staff
Yes,
to align
Yes.
frontage.
yes.
Yes,
And
okay.
also the apron on the driveway was also
Okay.
suggested.
Understood.
Yeah.
And can
And
you
also sorry to interrupt.
That's
The,
okay.
The hydrant that needs to be moved,
Saw that.
yeah.
Can you just elaborate on the fencing? You said, so there are existing chain link fence
Yeah, right here, it's existing.
on both sides, on
Mhm. But I
the,
think
and
that
then it
belongs to
says there's a
the,
wood fence in the rear?
yes, there's a wood fence in the rear, but that belongs to the backdoor neighbor,
Okay.
yeah.
So
It used to
you-
be an alley, but the alley was canceled.
You're not adding any
No.
fencing?
No.
Okay. And then last question, thank you, by the way,
Mhm.
for preserving the pecan.
Yeah.
There appears to be a tree almost right in the middle of the,
Yeah, it's a palm tree,
you're taking that out?
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of the property, yeah. Mhm. There's some more, we're gonna keep some more around the side of the back of it, yeah, yeah.
Okay, what's the width on the trim around the windows?
The width of the trimmer on the windows. I think we marked it there, that was part of the, I think it's a 2-inch trim. I think it has it there. Yeah. 2-inch trim.
It's called a 2-inch.
Can you zoom in a little bit more, please?
Yeah. I will allow my fellow commissioners to weigh in on that it seems a little narrow.
Okay.
And I'm bothered by the dimension of, I assume that the second-story window on the right, where it's just a single window and it's not paired with another one.
Which one, this one here?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's in a bathroom, is that how
It's
that?
in a bathroom, yeah, over a
Okay.
vanity.
And I'm thinking of that now, that it's gonna be cut in four, just four. Is that right? In other words, there's gonna be
Yeah, agreed.
a mullion and Munton that's gonna,
Yeah, yeah.
something right there in the front. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, to match,
yeah,
to match these.
all right. And I think that we're going to put conditions that you will have to be met, right?
Okay.
Probably. We don't know that yet. But there'll probably
Look,
be
I don't have a-
conditions. Yep, but, well, because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But there will more than likely be some conditions if you get an approval, and you'll have to come back to staff with some additional information, right? And the window installation is probably going to be one, if we get to that point, it's going to be one of those things.
Guys,
But
just for
you've-
you guys to know, I have changed this already 4 times. I've gone back and forth 4 times for this. So, and every time I go back, I've been doing this since May of last year. So,
You know?
maybe I'm not in my rebuttal time or whatever. Okay, I'm a contractor, I'm not an architect, all right? But I have met various times with different staff members, and I have tried to do everything that they have asked me to do.
Yes.
I have tried.
Yeah, we're still in the question period right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have no further questions. Thank you.
No questions.
No questions?
No questions, but happy anniversary.
Thank you.
To-
I've got a question. You
Yeah.
showed, again, one of the pictures, I think it was a neighbor's house, and you said that's what we want, and it had welcome walls on either side of the stairs. I don't see any on this front elevation, so.
Is it
just
this
for
one?
cl- Yes.
Okay.
So just for clarification, are you trying to do welcome walls on either side of those front stairs?
I
or
don't know,
no?
what's a welcome wall? What is that? I don't know.
Those
what it
little
is.
walls on either side of the stairs, the steps going
There's
up.
one here, but not on either side of the stairs, I guess.
Yeah, there's nothing shown.
Yeah. There's a little column.
No, that's the pier.
Yeah, the pier, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not a
It's
wall.
gonna look like this.
Yeah, that's not a wall.
That's
No,
not
no,
a
so,
wall.
so put that picture back up.
Are you talking about the railings? There's nothing
Well,
here.
zoom out, we can't see
Zoom
it.
out, okay.
Yeah, Dennis, if you'll point it to him.
Oh, those? No, no.
Okay, so you're not doing that.
No,
Okay.
no, I didn't even notice that until you pointed it out.
That's part of the problem with saying this is what we want to do.
No,
Because
I
we're
got
we're
this.
getting confused of what you really want to do and what the plan shows, so we have to go
Okay.
by the plans.
Okay, so by what the plan is, this is what we want it to look like.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, and the reason I took out the other picture is so you can see the color palette, you can see, it shows I got this off the Hardy website.
Sure, no, I
Yeah.
understand, it's just,
Yeah.
for your future reference, we have to go off of what the
I
plan
understand.
shows.
Yeah, I understand. But
Alright,
I got this like to show the brick column and all
Yeah,
that.
no, I get it, I
Yeah.
get it. All right, so looking at your east and west elevation, explain to me the window layout.
So that has the window layout is here. It's better if you see it on the layout, on the interior layout.
Okay.
For the bedrooms, you see it's like centered on these bedrooms here. This one was added here because this one goes in the.
I can't see what you're pointing at, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right here. On the west elevation, this one is on. Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Yeah, on the west elevation, this is in the master bedroom here.
Okay.
There was no window here before, and then it was suggested to add the window there. So, because there was a big gap here without windows.
Right.
So we added this window.
So what's getting me is on the west elevation, the windows all the way over to to the left, I don't know what direction that is.
This here?
Where they're like not lined up, they're close, but they're not lined up. What, is there a reason that they're not?
Because
lined
they're
up?
in the middle of the bedrooms.
Okay,
You see it here. That'll be where they are in the middle of the bedrooms, the bathroom.
okay,
and the other bedroom.
okay,
This one was added here because there was a big gap here.
gotcha.
you know, But just where they fall with the, there's another window here on the landing,
Got it.
the one other window here.
Do me a favor and put the elevation up one more time for me. And all of those windows, obviously besides the bathroom windows, which, again, on the top, the east elevation, that smaller window,
This one?
yeah, that's a bathroom window?
This would be the front right. Yeah, that's
Okay,
this one
all
right
right.
here.
So then what about the other smaller window that is?
This one here?
Yes.
That's a bathroom window, yeah. It's over the toilet.
Why that size versus the other size that you're using? I'm just asking.
I mean, I didn't really look at it to tell you the truth, but it goes over the toilet here, that's why. So it's a little bit smaller than this one over here. You have more space over here.
Okay,
You see? This is to the, when you're looking at the vanity to your left. And this is over the toilet.
okay. All right,
So,
fair enough.
yeah.
Last question I have, and it goes back to one of those photographs, and I think it was the one of the neighbors.
This one
You'll
here?
put that one back up. And
This
you
one?
were talking about, maybe, yeah, you were talking about like the brackets and all that.
Yeah.
So point out this, what's not shown on the elevation that you plan on doing with brackets and stuff like that, or did I hear you wrong?
I don't plan on doing these brackets, but this would be the,
Okay,
with tongue and groove and then the rafters showing, just like this here.
okay.
Yeah.
So exposed rafter tails, that, but
Mhm.
no decorative brackets.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I just wanna see your elevations one more time, just so I can, okay, so. Okay,
So can
Okay.
can the bottom windows be moved a little bit to line up
Yeah,
or not?
yeah.
So if the top one, so I'm looking at the west elevation, so if the top can't move, can the windows, one be moved over a little bit this way and one be moved over to line up with the ones
Yeah.
on top?
Yeah, that's fine.
And then how about on?
Cause that's
on-
here in the living room and kitchen.
In the kitchen, and then on the east elevation, can the one on the bottom, on the right-hand side, be line up with the one above it?
That one's going to be a little bit more difficult. The stairs are right here.
Oh, okay.
But we could, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult.
Okay,
You know, this is the bottom and this is the top. Maybe we can, we can move the top one to the left a little bit to match the bottom. We could do the top one.
okay, well, are there any other questions?
no.
The bottom one, I'm saying, yeah, the bottom could be moved. So all the ones on the bottom could be moved if we needed to.
Just so they're all kind of,
Yeah, so they're in the
Lining
same,
up.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of our questions, so you do have 5 minutes if you so choose for rebuttal.
Is there anything to rebuttal? I mean,
That's up to you.
yeah. I mean, it's just, it's a simple design, it's not complicated. It's a 4-2, 4-3. So it's a very nice house for any family. That's what we're trying to do. All right. And my cousin is the owner and his mom is the owner, my aunt. So I had to listen to what she told me to do. She was the one that wanted the, you can see it here. I mean, this is not up to you. This is not for you guys. This is not the exterior. This isn't the interior, but she was the one that wanted his, the Jack and Jill bathroom. She was very adamant about that. And she wanted the laundry room upstairs, which makes sense.
Yeah.
The laundry room upstairs. So,
Okay,
but anything in the outside needs to be changed, no problem. We'll change it.
all right, perfect. All right, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and close the public portion of this hearing and move on to discussions. And this is gonna be open, it's not gonna be in order.
yeah.
Oh,
You ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I think I'm okay, just leave, whatever needs to be done, I think staff can work with that.
I agree.
Yeah, they just need to get back with staff and
Yeah.
provide a ton more details, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the window depth, the recessing, working out a way to frame the windows so that they're not flush with the exterior of the house, which is what typical wood frame new construction is these days, but not in historic districts.
Right.
The average of the two adjacent properties, I think, is fine. He needs a design exception for that. He needs a design exception for the driveway, the truncated driveway. He needs to show the mechanical units. He needs to show the front walkway and what it's made of and what its scoring pattern is. All the windows should be vertically proportioned or square. They shouldn't be something else.
Needs to call out rafter details.
Call out the rafter details. The window proportion, or the windows should be aligned and not just centered in their rooms. They should be aligned vertical. If they're overlapping, they should be aligned. Simple as that. What was the other
It
thing?
was definitely the materials cut sheets.
Yeah, material cut sheets.
Yeah. Anybody write all that down?
You
I
did.
just spoke.
You did. You
I
wrote it all
just
down.
spoke.
All right, so
I've got more.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm going to be really particular on the column proportions. They don't look right to me. They're too thin at the top. And I do think we need to get very specific on the trim around the windows, that it's more. I don't know if that was said.
No, the 2 inches is too skinny.
Yes.
Yep.
3.5.
Yeah, but the columns taper too much, and get too thin at the top. So
I
I'd
agree.
like staff to look at that as well. And another one was, to me, the fascia was too thin.
But they're not gonna use fascia, they're gonna have exposed rafter tails.
Okay. All right. we
No,
need-
his details that show that, his pictures showed that.
Yeah,
and
all right. So
Chairman Batson asked a question.
specifically,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
it just, that needs to be heftier, whatever's up there, right?
Right.
Right, okay. That's it.
okay. So who is gonna? Oh, John.
Who's-
All right.
John?
You pointing at me?
Uh-huh, he's
You
got it all written
bet.
down.
Okay. Let's give this a shot. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents present at this public hearing in ARC 25-0000500 for the property at 506.5 East Park Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District, with the following conditions: that the applicant provide and work with staff to get more detail on the elevations of the windows, that they align where possible, that they be vertically proportioned or square, that the depth and detail of the exposed rafter tails be detailed, that the window trim be widened to a minimum of 3.5 inches, that the proportion of the columns, depth, width, and height be adjusted to something closer to the photograph that the applicant proposed or suggested, and that the mechanical units be shown and screened, and show screening, and that the sidewalk from the front porch to the sidewalk, the front walkway be, material be called out, and which should be concrete, and it should be scored, and the scoring pattern detailed. Hit it?
Material palette.
And further clarification of all the material palettes.
The applicant will need to obtain that DE for the front and the DET for the flare.
Yeah, the design exceptions all have to be obtained.
If I could interrupt, I'm sorry, I know.
No, you can't. Because,
I might have missed it, but the more gradual tapering of the column?
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah,
added?
you got that, yeah.
You got that? Okay. Perfect.
closer to the photographs that you showed of the adjacent property. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights Historic District's design guidelines, and the city of Tampa, on the basis of scale, proportion, and detailing. Match the neighborhood.
All right, so we have a second. Now, Mr. Rios? So did you, all right, so we have a motion to approve with conditions. Did you understand all those conditions?
Yeah, I wrote them down.
Okay,
The,
so
yeah, I wrote them all down. I wrote them all
are
down.
you in agreement with those before?
Yes,
we
sir.
discuss-
I'm in agreement. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so discussion. We have a.
So, could I interrupt a second? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So
Go
do
ahead.
I have to come up in front of the board again?
Nope.
Okay.
No, you'll just deal with staff and give them this information.
I'll deal with Mr. Dennis.
I want to
Dennis
amend
Erling.
I want to
Yeah.
amend my motion that
Right.
the windows be,
Cool.
adjusted for depth
Setback in.
in setback in the walls.
Second.
Installation detail, right, yeah.
Yep. All right. So moved. All right. So any discussion? We have a second?
Second the motion.
No, we've already got a second.
you've already-
There's
okay.
just any discussion.
Oh,
All
we
right,
got a second.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Looks like it passes unanimously. Congratulations. Look forward to a nice project. All right. Happy anniversary.
That's why I came. I said, I'm in downtown, take me to the restroom.
Malio's is very nice.
Malio's is across the street.
Last but not least.
What?
Commissioners, moving to the last item on our agenda this evening. Yes? Are we?
Was a big bill.
Oh.
Can you view it? You can't view.
Do it on the phone. We have to have a printed copy.
I didn't. I didn't.
Oh, well, if,
Yeah.
let's see if they haven't changed, we could go there.
I didn't.
This should be all the same, this is what we mailed out.
Let's just see, that should be the, my date over here, oops. I didn't realize I was presenting. Yeah, that's the same set. Thank you.
Okay, we can go ahead with it.
Okay.
I got, one other thing, I didn't swear in. I didn't know I was gonna present this.
There we are. Commissioners, at this time, we are ready to proceed with the final item on our agenda this evening. This is case ARC-26-000085 for the property located at 5510 North Branch Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District. The application is for a new construction of an accessory structure with site improvements. So at this time, I'll move to the photo presentation. Again, this property is located at 5510 North Branch Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District. It is about 2 blocks north of Hillsborough Avenue in the north half of the historic district. On the Seminole Heights Historic District map, again, as always, we see the red lines representing the local historic district boundary and the blue lines representing the National Register Historic District boundary. The subject site is located at the southwest corner of Branch Avenue and Comanche Avenue. And this is the 1920 Sanborn map showing the location of the property in green again at Branch Avenue and Comanche Avenue. And you can see that it's the building at that time was, and it still is, a one-frame one-story wood frame dwelling. This is the front or the east elevation of the primary structure. It's a pretty straightforward, fairly simple bungalow residence. This is the north elevation. You can see that on this side of the property there is a attached garage. We'll circle around to that, I think, in a minute here. And then looking at the east and the south elevation on the other side. This is the west and south elevations. This is mostly a view of the attached garage that's on the building there. And moving to the, looking across Comanche Avenue to the north. This is the property to the north. Looking directly to the south on Branch, this is the building, contributing building directly to the south. This is the property across Branch Avenue to the east. And looking north on Branch Avenue, this is the view. So the subject site would be on our left. So we're looking across Comanche here, and then turning around looking south and back toward Hillsborough Avenue at the dead end. That's the view looking south on Branch. This is the view looking east on Comanche, across the intersection with Branch there. And the view looking west on Comanche Avenue. You can see a bit of the attached garage there in this picture on the left. This is the alley, looking north in the alley, out toward Comanche Avenue. And then looking south in the alley, the subject site's just to your left. And that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time, I'll ask the applicant to begin his presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony being provided today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Hello, I'm Nate Meyer. I own the house. I'm also the architect and the contractor too. So, and so basically, I'm trying to build a detached garage that's large enough to fit a car to park in.
What are we over here?
Oh, okay.
Well, kind of zoom in. That should be good.
So the red box is the detached garage. It's 15 by 38, which is deep enough to house 2 9 by 18 parking spaces. And then this hatch region is my existing house. Elaine mentioned I do have a garage currently here, but it's kind of too small to park in. I'm proposing, so this is the alley along the west side. I'm proposing a new driveway off of Comanche. I have this driveway right now that I use, and transportation said you can't have 2 driveways along any one road, so they said I had to take that out, so I agreed to do that. I looked at some different schemes, like how I could rotate the garage and make it, or maybe make it smaller. You know, maybe enter off of Branch here. Initially, I wanted to access the garage from the alley, but you can, so there's a large tree here. It's not a grand tree, but it requires a 15-foot protection ring. So there was really, like, this layout is really the least intrusive to that tree. And I went through a few different schemes, some that I reviewed with Elaine, you know, like rotating this box, trying to drive in off of Branch, and so anyway, this seemed like the best solution. Let's see. This is just a blow-up version of the plan itself. And it's rotated, so now, you know, this is, the top is the west, and then this right side is north. So Alley and Branch, or Comanche, sorry. I don't know if this matters. I'm showing the outswing garage doors. I think those are gonna have to end up being like a panel style door, overhead door, but carriage style, which I'll show you in the elevation, but so this hatched area right here is where the slab kind of encroaches on that 15-foot tree protection ring. And I have some details of how I would cantilever that slab over that area. I had this tree, an arborist report done. I had air spading done, and then an arborist report also. I had some trees demoed like over a year ago, and so I submitted all that information with my tree permit, and then I resubmitted it with this submittal. But so what they discovered was this kind of larger root coming through here, and then it branches out, and sorry, I can't read the I can't read the size, but they're big enough to where I can't cut them basically. So I'm trying, what I'm showing here is stopping kind of like a traditional thickened edge slab foundation in those areas, so that, you know, the roots can kind of go through there. And then I'm proposing these round piers here also, so that the slab isn't purely cantilevering. It kind of spans over to those, probably end up being like 8-inch sonotubes formed. It's wooden structure, 2x6s, with probably wood siding to match the exterior of my existing house. But let's see. I should note, just in terms of setbacks, I'm not asking for any variances. I'm exceeding the setbacks on all sides, just by a few inches on each side, but, so I wanted to point that out. And then, so this is the north elevation, entry to the garage. It's kind of hard to see here, but I'm proposing just a horizontal lap siding to match the siding on my house, which actually isn't original. There's wood lap siding on the house now, but after going underneath the house, I can tell that it was added on at some point. So there's, what I think it is like a 1x6 V-groove vertical siding, and then they came over the top of that with like furring strips and rigid insulation board, and then the horizontal siding. So I had initially submitted this with vertical board and batten siding to kind of match the siding that's on the house, but with the intent of someday ripping all that off and getting back to the original siding. But I don't know how long that will be, or if I ever get to that point. So Elaine kind of suggested to go with the horizontal siding, so, which I think looks nice anyway. So that's what you're not seeing in this picture. Kind of a carriage style garage door. It's based on a Clopay model, I haven't selected a final door, but they have versions that look just like this. What's not coming through here is like this kind of like, it's divided lights. It looks, I think it's like total of 8 lights on each side. And then, you know, this would be broken up into panels, probably 4 or 5 horizontal panels. There's a light fixture up here that would be, I don't have that selected either yet. The trim boards, there would be corner boards, 1x4 corner boards, 1x4s on each side of the doors, and then a 1x6 across the top, with like a little 1x2 cap. I want to ventilate the top here with vertical slats, which would match my house now. What else? Oh, exposed rafter tails. It's going to be roof rafter framed, 2x6, with a 1x6 beaded planks for the eaves, exposed eaves. And then, oh, the height also. So the height, the max height is 22'6", and I'm under that. I have it here. I think it's like 18 feet is what I'm proposing, but 17'2". So again, like, you know, under the max height allowable height. This is the roof plan, just gabled on each end, 5V crimp metal matching the house with the clear, you know, silver finish. And then there's the separation between the roofs it's 5 feet minimum, and it exceeds that. This is the east elevation facing the interior, or facing, like, yeah, I guess the interior of my yard, with just a side door. I got a simple roof over that with some brackets supporting that, and then this door, kind of, you know, colonial style, matching my existing front door. This is the other side, the west side, facing the alley. You can see all the exposed rafter tails along here. And then this is the south or the rear, facing the neighbor's property. This is a typical building section, 2x6 rafter framing, collar ties here horizontally. I'm setting the bearing point at 12'4" off the slab, which is just utilizing 12-foot 2x members with the double top plate and a single bottom plate, thinking that that might be quicker construction-wise, so I don't have to cut a bunch of studs. Yeah, I guess you can see here too, just simple thickened edge foundation until it gets to that area where the tree roots are. Okay. And then this is another section long ways that the slope driveway, new door, or entry door here, and then this is the door leading to the backyard. And then these are a series of foundation details. One, this is at the garage door, this is a typical, and then how I'm planning on spanning over that zone, the tree protection zone, with the piers when those occur, and then this is kind of a typical in that area, with 4 feet is the max that the slab's encroaching onto that protection ring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Staff found the proposed project consistent with the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines, and we did have a few conditions for consideration, primarily just introducing maybe some ways to break up the scale of the wall planes by introducing windows or a band board perhaps, and just making sure that all trim dimensions and any window installation details, should windows be introduced to the project, should be provided as well. I think with that, I did not have any other concerns, so I'm available if you have questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Seeing no one in the audience, we will move on to questions from commissioners, starting on my left.
No questions.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for presentation. The driveway you're abandoning, you have granite curbs, sunken granite curbs that you're gonna raise? Is that what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna drop the granite curbs on the new driveway cut?
Yes, I was
Okay.
told that's what I had to do.
Do you know what the overall height of your main house is to peak?
I don't, but I did this little. So way back there, this is kind of approximate too, because well, I have my existing house modeled. So I haven't measured it, but it's,
Yeah, I can't read any of that.
I can't either.
I tried with and without my glasses, and I can't read it.
I didn't have my drawings either, so.
That's great.
Actually, I have
I guess my point is that we want to guarantee that the garage is lower than the main house and that the garage isn't taller than the main house.
Okay, yeah, it is lower.
Okay. That's one of the things that we're pushing at.
It's
and
about,
you-
it's about 2 feet.
Okay. I guess you're doing work in there on vehicles, and you're gonna put a car lift in there, or what? What was that? How did that car float in the middle of that garage in the section?
Well, okay, yeah, why am I building this garage? I inherited a car from my dad, and I would like to work, it's an old muscle car, and so I do plan on putting it up there and just like changing the oil. I'm not trying to open a repair shop in my neighborhood. I'm just gonna be able to lift the car up. And then I thought, initially the garage wasn't deep enough to put 2 cars in.
Right.
And I thought, well, it'd be kind of nice to put the lift in there. I could have the car up. That's kind of like a little extra security. I could park underneath it with my truck if I wanted to. So, yeah, that's just the
Yeah,
idea.
because I was wondering why is it so tall?
That's
Yeah.
that's probably the main
Okay.
reason that it's taller. And I think, it probably could come down a little bit. I mentioned like using 12-foot 2x4 so I don't have to cut them, but I could buy 12-footers and cut a foot off. I think if it's 10, it might be a little bit tight.
Well, you couldn't park your truck under it, that's for sure.
Yeah, if I do, but exactly, yeah,
well-
so it probably could come down a foot and I could still get the lift in there and put another car
Okay.
underneath it.
you're gonna keep the other garage, the attached garage. Are you gonna alter the exterior elevation of that at all? Because it's still gonna have garage doors, but you're not gonna have a driveway.
Well, I would like to. At the moment, no, but I don't like how that.
That's
garage
not a
looks.
part of this application?
It's not a part of the application, exactly.
Okay.
If I could, one thing I've considered doing is it's two, I don't know if you saw the picture, but there's two doors. And so I thought maybe down the road I would take those out and just put a single door there that's smaller.
If it's not part of this application.
It's not a part of this
Okay.
application, yeah. I don't have any other questions.
No questions.
No questions.
A few questions, so I understand. Is it built for cars to park end to end? Is that why it's sized the way it is, or you're just stacking?
The length, yeah, the length
The
is
length,
two cars end to end.
okay. But also the height is to accommodate stacking.
The height is to accommodate stacking.
Okay.
And so part of the, I guess a little bit of the history was it wasn't as long, but when it was shorter, when I couldn't fit two cars end to end, then zoning considered it a single car garage. And then when it's a single car garage, the setback increases from 10 feet, I think it's to 18 feet. So then that.
Understood. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Did you consider altering the existing garage to meet your needs instead of having to build a new structure?
Yes, I did, and the main thing is the tree. There's a huge tree
Yes.
right there that's like,
Okay, understood.
yeah.
And as to staff's suggestion about adding windows and other perhaps design elements to break it up, it doesn't appear, it looks like there was one small window, but are you not interested in taking either of those suggestions?
Well, I am interested in it. I don't have any shown.
That's true.
This is probably the worst. This is probably the worst elevation.
I can't read it.
Sorry, I would agree. I mean, it is a very monolithic structure as
Yeah.
you've presented it. Last question is about your pervious, impervious calculations. Can you point those out wherever they are? And I know
They're on the site plan, and I can read them all. I can see it on my phone.
I just like to bring it to the record. In this case, the primary structure is relatively modest, but this structure, even as it stands, is a third of the size of the primary. It's consuming a significant amount of this lot. I'm going to assume that your calculations meet code, but I would like the record to reflect it. It's just a big structure on it. It's just consuming a lot of open space.
You have calculations on the right?
So I do, but I'll tell you what they say. So, so all the existing area, which is all this hatched, the driveway, the portion of the driveway that's on my property, this path here, even my AC pad, everything that's impervious is 2146 square feet. New area, which would be the driveway, the portion that's on my site, and then the garage, and then one thing I didn't mention. I wanted to pour a little stoop right here, outside of this. There's a door there, but anyway, including that also is 729 square feet. So that leaves me with my total site area is 7,392 square feet. Total impervious would be 2,875, equals 39%.
All right, thanks for pointing that out. That's all I have. Thank you.
A couple of real quick questions. Do you have any mechanical units, AC systems, anything like that you're going to put in there?
No, it'll be non-conditioned.
Okay. Are you doing anything with the fences that are currently on site?
The fences, I will need to modify this fence. So right now the fence kind of comes off this corner, and then it comes across, and there's a jog in it, and then it ends up, running along the alley. So what I wanted to do, I was gonna pull it back off the corner here just a little bit, maybe 5 feet, and then have a fence here too, that's like a new gate. But basically, this would all remain. And then as much of this, I think I can actually take 2 legs of the fence and reuse them. So that's my idea, is that it would, either I rebuild the segments that I need to match the existing fence, or I can reuse pieces of.
Would you be open to, the section between the new garage and the old garage, would you be open to moving that back to matching what's over by the alleyway now? Or where you're proposing where the alleyway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I would, like, pull it back here.
Yeah.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Pull it back. It'd
No.
probably look nicer because, this whole edge is, it's
Right.
pretty continuous, so
Yeah.
that would break it up.
Okay, no more questions.
Okay, so I heard that you're open to exploring, putting a band or windows on the structure?
Yes.
Working with staff on that? Okay, great.
You were talking about recessing them too, and I think, I just saw this, detail, but, I'm planning on doing 2x6 framing, so in between the studs, you can use 2x4s. It's good to kind of buck the window, and then you can set the window back 2 inches, so.
Exactly.
Good. Okay, so seeing no other questions, you have up to 5 minutes for rebuttal if you so choose.
No, I would just, as far as like adding windows and things, who would I submit that to? Would that be part of like?
If it would be part of a condition, and then you would work with staff, Elaine and Dennis, to figure it out.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right. So at this point, we're going to close the public portion of the hearing and move on to discussion.
I think I'm ready for approval with conditions, so they work with staff and
Yeah,
figure out some
adding,
details.
adding some windows, clarifying the garage door, whether it's overhead or swinging, what it looks like. The Cote one we've had presented to us before, that, I think Alan Dobbs uses that exact word in a lot of his designs.
I've got a lot more on here, but I'll take a
Go
motion.
ahead.
Well, those are conditions, but I think you have a
Yeah, I
comment.
just find it inconsistent. I just think it's an it's oddly shaped, it's not something you would typically see in the historic district, it seems out of place, it's kind of, I don't know that even, respectfully, some of the concessions to break it up, there's just, I just don't find that it's a fit for this site.
Just to respond to that quickly, I think that it matches a number, it checks a number of boxes, and it is obviously long, it's longer and higher than most of the garages that you're going to see. But it kind of I think it pairs nicely with that really long, really simple house that's there.
Like a shotgun.
Yes, it's like a shotgun garage.
Yeah.
And so I think it's okay.
That's why we have different opinions.
That's right.
Yeah, and because it's along the alley too, I think
Yeah, that's what I think.
that
That's
helps.
mitigating.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not, the windows, no window, I mean, there's a fence there, so the windows are gonna have to be higher.
Clerestories.
I mean, so to me, it's,
To be
whether
visible.
we require windows or not, it doesn't matter.
Well, I would say my comment was explore.
Yeah.
I'm not mandating, but I do think we could explore it and see if it adds.
And I think you might find it be a more pleasant space to be in, with there's some natural light.
Supposed to a dark cave, yeah.
And he went to the point, went to the extent of, his only entrance door is a full glass entrance door.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think there's an amenability to that.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay.
Okay. Let's see, where's that? I would like to make a motion for a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented as ARC, public hearing in ARC -26-000085 for the property located at 5510 North Branch Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District with the following conditions: that the applicant works with staff on the garage door specs, siding material, bracket details. We need to move the fence to be in line on both sides. The granite curb has to match. We need to have a granite curb detail showing lowering and raising. Material palette that shows all of the trim, the gable vent details, and to work with staff in exploring adding vents or a band board. Did I miss anything?
Window openings.
Or window openings, sorry, yeah, or window openings.
Okay. So it's here.
Because,
Oh, sorry, I forgot the last part, sorry. Because based on the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Seminole Heights Historic District design guidelines of the city of Tampa for the following reasons: that it will match sizing and scale and appropriateness for the district.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second discussion.
I'll be objecting to it, but for those who will be voting for it, do you want to acknowledge anything around the peculiar situation of a garage, the existing garage opening to a non-accessible drive? Again, it seems, it's the look and presentation of it is just off.
He said that he was going to remove the drive beyond his property line.
Here, he's adding curb back in front of a garage opening.
but it would be the garage doors. It
But-
would be with grass and landscape.
Yeah, I'm saying it looks odd.
That's
It's
not part of his
bad.
presentation.
Yeah, it's not.
Well,
Nothing,
but
he's not altering that
what he's
building.
doing is precipitating the addition, the removal of that drive and the addition and back of a curb cut in front of a garage door. And
But-
it's just,
But to your point, that addition where that garage is that's attached to the house was added at a later date and is not historically accurate, but that's
it's gonna
not
be
part of-
less historically
Well, no,
accurate.
I know, it's just not part of
Yeah.
what we can really.
All right,
kind of-
well,
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it is.
Obviously,
it is
I'm
obviously
outvoted,
not-
but-
No, it's obviously not horribly attractive. It's not attractive, okay?
But
it's more than unattractive. It creates a very inconsistent look and feel for a district that we've worked so hard to try to be so particular about. I mean, you guys are talking about the inches of an inset of a window frame.
But it's already
and
there,
I'm just.
and we're not changing it, we're just taking a driveway out.
No,
in
we
front of
are
it.
changing it,
No, we're
though.
just taking a driveway out. in
Well,
front of
that's
it.
changing it. Right
You're
now,
still leaving the building there.
it's a driveway that leads to a garage. We're now going to require him to close that access point, and now there's no access to a garage door. It's just peculiar, and it seems
I
out of
understand your
sync.
point, and
Right.
it's a completely valid point. The reality of it is transportation that's requiring that bit of driveway and the right of way to be taken out, and he's not making any changes, and he's not proposing to make changes. So we
Understood,
just
but
can't.
again, it's precipitated by approval of the second garage. So if the second garage wasn't happening, none of these other things likely would be
So if
happening.
he was to do something with the existing garage door, he would have to come back.
He'd have to come
before
back.
this.
Or do an
Or
administrative.
go through
thing.
staff.
Yeah.
Work with staff, yeah.
Or if
So-
we made a condition.
So I would say, well, I don't know about making a condition, but I would welcome him to work with staff to see if there's an administrative solution.
Okay, so,
Are you not interested in making it a condition?
No.
I don't think it's even in
Yeah,
our purview.
the garage, the existing garage isn't before you today.
Understood, but the modifications that are happening
I understand, yeah, I totally understand your
as a
argument.
result of this. Okay.
Yeah.
I
because
obviously
don't
am
wanna-
outvoted, so.
Yeah, I don't wanna make it a condition because I don't know if there's an administrative solution. So if there's not an administrative solution, then presumably he would come back and say, I wanna make this change, the existing garage.
Well, would the condition be that he work with staff to explore?
So let's do this. Dana? Can we even, if we were so moved to do so, can we even put a condition on a part of a house that is not in front of us?
Sorry, no, that's not before you right now. We are looking at this issue. You can suggest that he do that, but not as a part of your approval.
So can we make a condition that
No,
he
you-
would explore the option of doing something with those two garage doors on the existing garage?
The structure is it right now before you.
Okay, okay. So then, no, I will not amend my motion.
So you go. All right, so we have a second.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against?
No,
Okay, so it is 6-1, congratulations.
Does he know the
Oh, I'm
conditions?
sorry, you know what? Did you understand the conditions that were included in that motion?
Yes, I don't have them all written down, but
You'll get them written
Okay.
down.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
If you understood them and you agree?
yes.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
motion passes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thank
All right, so then I'm looking for a motion to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits. Huh?
Oh, my God.
We got this before.
I move to accept whatever we're supposed to
Motion to
accept.
receive
I
and file
know.
submitted documents.
Yeah, I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Had a long couple of weeks.
All right,
Yeah.
now we can go.
Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. One more course of business this evening. According to your rules of procedure, in the month of April, you elect your officers for the year. You have some options for this process. You can choose to retain the existing individuals that serve as officers, as long as they're willing to serve in those roles, or you can nominate new individuals serving those roles if they are willing to serve. I'll begin by accepting nominations for the position of chair. Are there any nominations for the position of chairperson?
I nominate that we continue the current chair who's seated.
I second.
I'm happy to do it, but if somebody else wants to turn, I'm happy to relinquish.
Are there any other nominations?
No, I was about to vote.
Like, let's do this.
So we have a nomination for Commissioner Kempton to continue in the role. Can I see a vote of hands for that
Is this at the
nomination?
same pay rate?
Same pay. No raise.
Less. Okay, we have a unanimous vote for that. Congratulations. I'll accept a nomination for the vice chairperson.
I make a nomination that we keep it the way it is. Oh,
But my term expires in January, right?
Your term expires in January. You can serve until replacement. However, I wouldn't look at that as being an obstacle to you serving as vice chair. We can always hold another election upon that time.
Okay. I accept the nomination.
Any other nominations for vice chairperson? Okay, seeing none, can I show a show of hands for support of that nomination? That's unanimous. Congratulations, and thank you.
With that, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Right.